Chapter 852. Bufong's words caused the laughter in the restaurant to suddenly stop. Hades' era looked at Bufong with a dumbfounded expression. He seemed to not understand what Bufong said. What did he mean by he was enjoying the spicy gluten and wanted the papillion steak? He could not eat the papillion steak after eating the spicy gluten? Why couldn't he have both of them? Bufong, young man, don't try to fool I just because I'm handsome. We're all on the same side. No matter what, you have to leave a piece for I, right? Hades flicked his hair and said, No. Bufong shook his head. Ha ha ha. Aren't you on the same side? Why don't you show off? Continue showing off. Mo Tianji couldn't help but laugh out loud. Looking at Nether King Ha's defeated appearance, he felt a wave of comfort in his heart. It was like the feeling of an ice-cold drink entering his mouth, instantly surging into his stomach. It was really delightful. In the restaurant, the sound of laughter once again lingered. This laughter caused Hades' era's expression to be a little awkward. A villain intoxicated by success. Hades was furious. Mo Tianji, who was watching the laughing Mo Tianji, wished he could use Hades' clothes-stripping finger to strip this smug fellow and throw him out. This seems to be a really good idea. Hades' era's eyes lit up. He instantly narrowed his eyes and looked at Mo Tianji. That gaze made Mo Tianji's hair stand on end. The laughter also naturally stopped. What do you want to do? In broad daylight, Owner Boo, let's talk about the papillion steak. Mo Tianji pursed his lips. He felt a little sullen. To think that he, the saint sovereign of the heavenly secret holy land, actually suffered countless losses in a restaurant. This was really too wrong. You don't have to laugh. Your papillion steak needs to be bought by yourself. Bufong looked at Mo Tianji lightly and said, Buy? What's the price? Mo Tianji was taken aback. Bufong didn't say anything. He just raised his hand and pointed at the menu on the wall. On it, there was an additional dish, medium well papillion steak. Price, 1 million yuan crystals. 1 million crystals. Mo Tianji looked at the price, and his face fell. There was no expression on his face at all. 1 million yuan crystals just to eat a piece of meat? That was almost half the price of a small crystal mine. Spending half the price of a crystal mine to eat a piece of meat. Mo Tianji still felt somewhat pained in his heart. But ha! Who asked you to show off? Why don't you King keep laughing? Hades' era also saw the price. He didn't have any concept of crystals, but he could see the pressure on Mo Tianji's face. Earlier, Mo Tianji's laughter had made him feel awkward. Now he wanted to laugh back. This was called showing off for no more than 3 seconds. There would always be reincarnation. Smile? Wasn't it just 1 million crystals? I can still afford it. Mo Tianji glanced at Hades' era. Then, the corners of his mouth curled up, revealing a cold smile. As the heavenly secret holy land saint sovereign, his status was noble. A mere 1 million crystals. He had to be ruthless. Okay, then you guys wait. Bufong glanced at the crowd. Then, he kept the tableware and turned to enter the kitchen. In a short while, the air was once again filled with the rich aroma of dragon meat. Everyone's mood was stirred up because they knew that the next papillion steak would truly belong to them. However, some people were happy, while others were sad. Nether King Ha was the saddest one. Just because he ate a spicy strip, he was rejected by Bufong as one of his people. This young man was really getting more and more mischievous. However, this smell was really fragrant. Hades' era's mouth twitched. He smelled the aroma in the air. He really couldn't bear it. Soon, in the kitchen, a slender and thin figure slowly walked out. He was holding a covered dish in his hand. Placing the dish on the table, Bufong looked at the crowd and signaled them to distribute it. Then, he turned around and returned to the restaurant to continue cooking. Everyone looked at each other. Who should they give the first papillion steak to? Mo Tianji actually wanted it. After all, he had spent money, so he should have some privileges. However, he always thought too much. Just as he stretched out his hand, Lord Go's furry dog paw instantly pressed on the cover. Mo Tianji froze. Lord Go's dog eyes glanced at Mo Tianji, causing Mo Tianji's entire body to turn cold. F*CK. This dog, Shameless. Lord, go first. Black's gentle and magnetic voice rang out. Motng was unwilling, but he didn't dare. After all, the guy in front of him was Lord Go. In the legends, he was even more awesome than Hades' era. Fight! He definitely couldn't beat him. Hence, Motng could only be wronged and forced under Lord Go's pressure. Lord Go's furry dog paw patted, and instantly, the cover was slapped open. The aroma of the papillion steak spread out, causing Lord Go's saliva to drip out of his mouth. Clang! Lord Go fiddled with the knife and fork, and his dog mouth instantly twitched. With his exquisite dog paw, he couldn't use this thing at all. Bufong, this kid, must be doing this on purpose. Eating a papillion steak would still be elegant. Could elegance be eaten? Lord Go's paw pulled, pushing the knife and fork to the side. Then, he opened his mouth and started to chew on the papillion steak. The dog's mouth kept biting. The taste of the papillion steak entered his mouth, causing Lord Go's dog eyes to become brighter and brighter. When the others saw this, they couldn't help but swallow their saliva. It was really very fragrant. Motng felt his heart twitching as he watched a dog tearing at a piece of meat that he had spent 1,000,000 origin crystals to buy without any scruples. He truly felt as if a piece of meat had been bitten off by a dog. It was so painful that tears almost fell from his eyes. What a reckless waste of resources. Hades' era looked at Lord Go eating so happily, and his heart was filled with envy and jealousy. He was the one who caught the ingredients, but in the end, he didn't even eat a single bite. This lazy dog didn't do anything, and only ate a piece of meat. So unfair. Hades' era was so angry. Suddenly, his eyes suddenly lit up. Since this ingredient was found by him, then wouldn't it be fine if he caught a few more papillions? Hades' era was really excited about his wit. In the next instant, he looked deeply at the papillion steak that was being bitten in Lord Go's mouth. Then, he turned around, his long hair fluttering as he left. At the same time, Bufong also brought out the plates of papillion steak from the kitchen. In total, there were 6 plates. He ate one himself, and the remaining 5 were divided among the 5 fellows. You, Lord Go, Hua, Chu Chansheng, and the Heavenly Secret Saint Sovereign in front of him. Of course, the Heavenly Secret Saint Sovereign's piece of meat was bought with crystals. Bufong also poured a cup of Frostblaze Path Understanding brew for each of them. This made Motng excited for a while. Good wine with good meat. After Motng ate it, he was instantly shocked. His entire person was immersed in the delicious meat juice. A rumbling sound rang out in the void. A voice could be heard coming from the distance. Outside the Valley of Gluttony, hundreds of miles away, a majestic city stood. The city was in ruins, and the city walls had collapsed. The flames of war reached the sky, and black smoke billowed. In the city, many netherworld creatures were killing, and blood splattered everywhere. These creatures were the army from the ruined prison. They attacked the city and plundered the land, causing the city to be engulfed in the flames of war. There were many casualties. The demons roared excitedly, continuously killing the natives of the hidden dragon continent. In the sky, there was a huge demonic dragon flapping its wings. Other than being responsible for transporting the dragon eggs and growing the mandala tree, the demon dragon was also responsible for attacking the city. Such a huge demon dragon's combat power was extremely terrifying. Basically, it was invincible when attacking the city. Roar! The papillion flapped its wings, and the dragon's roar resounded through the entire city. The city was filled with cries and screams. The ruined prison army massacred wantonly, as though they wanted to turn this city into a dead city. Suddenly, in the void, a figure flew over at high speed. Suddenly, he floated in the air. This was a man with shiny black hair. His face was handsome, but he revealed a faint melancholy. He floated above the city, and his gaze turned. In the end, it landed on the huge papillion in the void. Finally found it. Those fellows from the ruined prison do have some tricks. They actually thought of using the papillion to bring the papillion eggs to grow the mandala tree. using the mandala tree to coerce the ruined prison army. Hades' era clasped his hands, looking at the city that had turned into ruins. He gently sighed. His gaze was complicated as he looked around. This was a calamity for the hidden dragon continent. He shouldn't interfere too much. This time, his goal for coming here was the Papillion. Other matters had nothing to do with him. Thus, Hades' era only floated in front of the Papillion. The Papillion looked at the small voice in front of it, opening its mouth and letting out an ear-piercing dragon roar. The roar brought along a gale, whistling and blowing Hades' hair. Hades indifferently looked at the Papillion. In the next instant, his figure disappeared from his original spot, as though he had teleported. When he reappeared, he stood on the Papillion's head. A wave of terrifying pressure instantly emitted from Hades' body. That Papillion couldn't even move. If Hades hadn't restrained some of his pressure, this stupid dragon would have been so scared that it would have directly fallen from the sky. Be good. I will take you to eat something good, Hades' era gently said as he patted the Papillion's head. The Papillion was stunned. In the next instant, the void was torn apart. The Papillion and Hades' era's figures instantly stepped into it, disappearing. The ruined prison army was instantly stunned, as though they didn't understand why the Papillion had disappeared. However, even without the Papillion, the battle still hadn't ended. Battle cries shook the sky. Everywhere in the entire continent, such a terrifying battle was erupting. Bufong pulled a chair, curling up in front of the door. Outside the door, blood-colored snowflakes fell from the sky like goose feathers, swaying as they landed on the ground, covering the ground with a layer of cotton. Within the restaurant, the sound of knives and plates colliding resounded unceasingly. Under Bufong's careful guidance, everyone finally learned how to use knives and forks. Other than Lord Go, who didn't have the right conditions, the others all used knives and forks to eat. Suddenly, the void not far from the door of the restaurant was torn apart. Instantly, a huge figure stepped out from within. It was the Papillion that Bufong had seen in the morning. However, the one in the morning was dead, while this one was alive. Hades' era jumped down from the Papillion's head, landing in front of the restaurant, looking at Bufong. Bufong, young man, I have brought ingredients back. This time, it should be I's share. Hades' era said excitedly. In the restaurant, Saint Sovereign Tianji was instantly affected by the commotion outside the door. He turned his head to look and saw the huge demon dragon. Saint Sovereign Tianji was bewildered. What? This dragon meat was actually the dragon meat of the one in front of him. Isn't this the demon dragon that attacked the continent from the ruined prison? Turns out that the thing he was eating with relish was actually a creature from the ruined prison. This is so King satisfying. This lord was wondering why it was so delicious. Today, it was because of these demon dragons that the continent was in deep water and scorching fire. Now that he could personally eat this demon dragon meat, Emo Tianji was indescribably excited. After eating, Emo Tianji put down his knife and fork, wiping his mouth in excitement. Ownerbu, give me another portion of Papillion steak. CK. This lord wants to eat all of these invaders from the ruined prison. At the same time, Heavenly Spring Holy Land, a handsome man with a head full of purple hair, stood on a spirit boat. That spirit boat soared into the sky, emitting a dazzling light. In the next instant, it tore the void, speeding toward the Valley of Gluttony. Chapter 853. Hades' era finally got his wish to eat the Papillion steak. When the abyssal chili sauce-flavored Papillion steak entered his mouth, Hades' era felt as though all the pores on his body had slightly shrunk. That feeling made him involuntarily squint his eyes. It was a kind of happiness that came from being conquered by delicious food. After finishing the Papillion steak, he placed the knife and fork on the plate. Hades' body leaned back, leaning against the chair. His mouth involuntarily opened, spitting out a mouthful of white gas, letting out a soft moan. Oh! Bufong, on the other hand, curled up in front of the door, feeling the snow. The heavenly secret Saint Sovereign had left. After eating the papillion steak, he was much more satisfied. He needed to return to the heavenly secret Holy Land. The current hidden dragon continent was not peaceful, and he was afraid that if he left for too long, something bad would happen. After Lord Go ate and drank his fill, he also returned to the Path Understanding tree, sleeping soundly under it. Hua sat beside Lord Go, quietly cultivating. Yu sat on the netherworld ship, swinging her legs. Chu Changsheng was the same as Bufang, pulling out a chair and sitting beside Bufang, watching the flowers bloom and wilt together. Everything became quiet and tranquil. The restaurant's business continued. At the entrance of the Valley of Gluttony, the void was torn apart, and a small boat slowly moved, floating out of the void. A handsome man wearing a purple robe, with a head full of purple hair, stood on the small boat. His gaze was like a torch, as though it could pierce through the void, looking straight at the Valley of Gluttony. This was his second time coming to the Valley of Gluttony. The first time was his clone. However, that clone was defeated. This time, he still came with a purpose. However, this time, his purpose was very different from before. Previously, he hoped to borrow the inheritance of the Valley of Gluttony to advance further. Unfortunately, he missed that inheritance, causing him to not advance further before the Heaven Pass tribulation. But now, he no longer needed it. Amethyst Elder raised his hand and looked at the eye that was rolling around in his palm. His brows furrowed. I can feel it. The heavenly star catcher disk's aura is in this Valley of Gluttony. Hurry up and destroy him. The devilish eye blinked and let out an impatient, hoarse voice. What's the rush? Take your time. Amethyst Elder indifferently looked at the demon eye in his palm. Then, he closed his palm, causing the demon eye to lose its voice. The group of people from the Holy Land had their clothes ripped off in the Valley of Gluttony. Amethyst Elder naturally knew about this. Anything related to the Valley of Gluttony, he would always pay attention to it. He had shouted to kill all the netherworld creatures on the continent, causing the experts of the Holy Lands to crazily slaughter the netherworld creatures on the continent. However, he had never thought that they would be defeated in the Valley of Gluttony. There was a restaurant in the Valley of Gluttony with netherworld creatures. To be able to strip all of his subordinates naked and throw them out. This was enough to prove that this was extraordinary. It should be known that among his subordinates, there was a sect master level existence. A sect master level existence was an expert that had already ignited his divine flame. Although that sect master had only ignited one divine flame in the Valley of Gluttony, he should have been invincible. However, in the end, he had awkwardly returned naked. Hence, Amethyst Elder became very cautious about this matter. He slowly walked down the boat, clasping his hands behind his back as he walked toward the Valley of Gluttony. However, although he was a little afraid of that netherworld creature, with his status and power, coming to the Valley of Gluttony, he should be respected. As for the guards in front of the city gates who were shouting to stop him, Amethyst Elder waved his hand. Purple true energy instantly spread out, causing these guards to be blown away and heavily injured. Although he did not kill anyone, those who dared to offend him were all heavily injured. After fusing with the demon eye, Amethyst Elder felt that his temper had become even more irritable. There was always a faint murderous aura gathering in his heart. Anayin woke up. She opened her eyes and rubbed her dizzy head, crawling up from the bed. She felt as though her head was about to explode, as though it was filled with lead. Walking out of the room, she walked down the stairs. These few days, she had already gotten used to this state. Every day, she would sleep for at least 14 to 16 hours. After waking up for the rest of the time, she would continue sleeping. Because of the star energy, Anai Yin had become very sleepy. Walking into the restaurant, after greeting Bufang, she habitually pulled out a chair and sat beside Bufang. Bufang turned his head, calmly looking at Anai Yin's beautiful face, and the corners of his mouth couldn't help but rise. "Did you remember anything about the heavenly star catcher disc today?" asked Bufang. Anai Yin shook her head, indicating that she did not remember anything. Her mind did not have any clues. This made Bufang a little anxious. It had been so long and he did not know when Yin would remember anything about the heavenly star catcher disc. System, do you have any way to make this woman remember how to use the heavenly star catcher disc quickly? Bufong quietly asked the system in his mind. According to the system's character, it should have some way. Indeed, the system was silent for a long time, and it did not say anything. Bufong's heart was instantly filled with joy. The system did not immediately reject him, which meant that there was still a way. The heavenly star catcher disc's energy has sealed this woman's memory. If you want to break the seal, you must first start from her memory. Breaking it from a memory can awaken this woman's control of the heavenly star catcher disc. The system's serious voice rang out. Bufong slightly narrowed his eyes. Starting from a memory. How should he start? Suddenly, the system's voice rang out, making Bufong completely dumbstruck. Temporary mission issued. Help Yin walk the memory path and control the heavenly star catcher disc. Mission reward. A branch's permanent transportation door, a fragment of the God of Cooking set. It issued a temporary mission just like that? Bufong was a little confused. Why did it suddenly issue a temporary mission? Moreover, this temporary mission was a little strange. Help Yin control the heavenly star catcher disc and walk the memory path? This mission made Bufong a little confused. However, Bufong quickly figured out the crux of the matter. The system wanted him to help Yin control the heavenly star catcher disc. In order to control the heavenly star catcher disc, he had to start from Yin's memory. He had to stimulate her memory and release the power of the stars. Bufong rubbed his chin, looking at Yin. Of course, other than the mission, Bufong was also interested in the mission's reward. A branch's permanent transportation door. What did this mean? Bufong currently had a total of 3 restaurants. One was in the southern region, Fong's little store in the Light Wind Empire. The other was in the Pill Palace, Heavenly Mist City's Cloud Mist Restaurant. The last one was currently in the Valley of Gluttony, Taodai Restaurant. The 3 branches operated together, providing business for Bufong to increase his cultivation. A branch's permanent transportation door. Did this mean that with this transportation door, he could easily travel between the branches? This was quite convenient. System notification. The temporary mission will start in an hour. Host, please prepare. The system seriously said. Bufong was stunned once again. The temporary mission would start in an hour? Why was it so rushed? What the hell was the system doing? Bufong was a little bewildered. He stood up from his chair, and after understanding the system for a while, he let out a sigh of relief. This time's temporary mission made Bufong a little excited. Because this time's temporary mission required Bufong to bring Yin back to the Light Wind Empire. The Light Wind Empire, Bufong felt that it was a distant memory. Many people and things seemed to have become a little fuzzy in his memory. After all, Bufong's mind only had cooking all day, so it was normal for his memory to be a little fuzzy. Bufong was a little excited. He didn't know what level his 2 chef apprentices had reached. Under normal circumstances, they shouldn't be any weaker than when he left the Light Wind Empire, right? Xiao Xiaolong and Serpent Woman Yu Fu were both quite talented in cooking. With these expectations, Bufong stood up with a little excitement. He chased Hades' Era, who was sitting there leisurely to digest his food, out of the restaurant. With a bang, he closed the restaurant's door. Chu Changsheng was stunned. Owner Bu, why did you close the restaurant so early today? Chu Changsheng asked curiously. However, Bufong didn't answer him. He just turned around and patted Yin's shoulder, then pulled her up. Under Chu Changsheng's cold gaze, they walked upstairs. Chu Changsheng suddenly understood, and a mischievous look appeared in his eyes. Owner Bu was really impatient, and Yin looked as if she hadn't woken up yet. She was pulled by Bufong, and they went straight back to the room. As soon as they got into the room, Yin lay on the bed. Bufong looked at the lazy Yin, and he couldn't help but twitch his mouth. He pulled her up from the bed, held Yin's shoulder, and said, "Wake up. I'll take you to a place." "Where are we going?" Yin's face was full of confusion. All of a sudden, her half-closed eyes slightly shrank. This was because she saw streaks of resplendent white light floating in the air, those light dots condensed in the void. This time, they didn't turn into a teleportation array. Instead, they piled up and turned into a white door of light. There was even a handle on the door of light. Bufong was also bewildered. Was this the teleportation door between the branches that the system had mentioned? It seemed to be very impressive. Since it was a teleportation door, did it mean that the other side of the door was the Light Wind Empire's Fong's little store? If that was the case, then it would be much more convenient. And Ai Yin woke up, and she looked at Bufong as if she didn't understand where Bufong wanted to take her. Bufong didn't say, and she didn't ask either. In the next instant, Bufong walked in front of the door of light. With a creaking sound, the handle of the door of light was twisted open. Bufong used a little force, and the door of light was pushed open. Inside the door of light, it was pitch black, as if it was a black hole. It was filled with the unknown black hole. Bufong looked at Ai Yin, and without saying anything, he took the lead and stepped into the door. Ai Yin hesitated for a moment, then followed Bufong's footsteps, stepping into the black hole. Even she didn't know where this black hole led to. The two of them entered. With a creaking sound, the door of light suddenly closed, and with a bang, it turned into a sky full of light dots and scattered. The sound of creaking rang out. Amethyst Elder clasped his hands, stepping on the snow-covered road. On both sides of the long street, the aroma of food wafted in the air, and all kinds of shouts rang out unceasingly. Even though it was a snowy day, the restaurants in the Valley of Gluttony were still bustling with activity. Suddenly, Amethyst Elder's footsteps paused, and his arm began to heat up. He raised his hand. The closed eye on his palm suddenly opened, letting out a ferocious roar. The aura of the heavenly star catcher disc disappeared. Damn it! Why did it disappear? Disappeared? Didn't you say it was in the Valley of Gluttony? Amethyst Elder frowned. It's not here anymore. Just a moment ago, it disappeared without a trace. Hurry up and go over. The demon eye roared. Amethyst Elder frowned, but he didn't say anything. Instead, he raised his head, looking into the distance. Over there, two figures were slowly approaching in the swirling snow. Those two figures, he was familiar with them. One was a handsome youth, and the other was Amethyst Elder's precious daughter. Amethyst Elder narrowed his eyes, and his palm closed. He didn't care about the demon eye's roar, quietly standing on the spot, waiting for the two people to slowly approach. Chapter 854. Amethyst Elder's eyes narrowed slightly as he looked at the two figures walking over from the snowstorm in the distance. Hades Era clasped his hands in satisfaction, walking slowly. His thick black hair was stained with snow. After eating the spicy strip and the delicious medium-well papillion steak, he was very satisfied. Saint Daughter Ziyun followed behind him, squinting her eyes. Seeing Hades so happy, she was happy too. All of a sudden, her steps halted and her eyes shrank. She couldn't help but look into the distance. There, a figure with purple hair stood in the snowstorm. Saint Daughter Ziyun's body couldn't help but tremble when she saw that familiar figure. Her eyes were filled with a panicked expression. Father, Saint Daughter Ziyun's eyes moved around. She didn't dare to look at the imposing Amethyst Elder. Amethyst Elder had finally come? As someone who had sneaked out of the Holy Land, Saint Daughter Ziyun had complicated feelings. She was a little afraid of Amethyst Elder because she knew that as soon as he appeared, she would have to return to the Holy Land. She didn't want to leave. Her days in the Valley of Gluttony were free and happy. Most importantly, she had her handsome, enchanting big brother Ha. Once she returned to the heavenly spring Holy Land, she would never see Era again. She couldn't bear this kind of grievance. Amethyst Elder clasped his hands, looking at Saint Daughter Ziyun coldly. His eyes were filled with dignity. You still know that I'm your father. You've been away for so many days. Don't you miss home at all? Amethyst Elder said indifferently. His voice carried a wave of anger that made Saint Daughter Ziyun's heart jump. Without waiting for Saint Daughter Ziyun's reply, Amethyst Elder's eyes turned, landing on Hades Era, who was by Ziyun's side. His eyes narrowed, as if he wanted to see through Hades' era. "You're the one who kidnapped my daughter?" Amethyst Elder asked. An oppressive aura spread out from his body, causing the snow and wind that filled the sky to seem to freeze at this moment. Hades' era had never thought that he would meet such a man on the road. That man seemed to be the father of this little follower. Thank the heavens. Was he finally going to take this little tail away from his side? Inexplicably, Hades' era was a little excited. "Little Z, your dad is calling you home for dinner." Nether King Erha turned his head and shouted at Saint Daughter Ziyun, whose face was filled with fear. Ziyun glared at Hades' era. "Brother Ha, shut up, don't talk." Hades suddenly smacked his lips. This little Z was really hot-tempered. "Forget it, I won't lower myself to her level." Amethyst Elder's nostrils flared, and white gas was continuously exhaled from his nostrils. He was truly enraged. His palms were clenched into fists, and blue veins could be seen on his fists. This girl was actually flirting with a stranger in front of him. Did he really think that his father was just a decoration? It seemed that after not seeing him for so long, this girl was going to ascend to the heavens. The flame of anger in his heart surged, making the way Amethyst Elder looked at Hades' era became even more unfriendly. This guy, don't think that just because he has a delicate face, he can deceive a little girl who doesn't know the ways of the world. He must let Z, or know this guy's true colors. "Zer, come here. Come back with your father to the Holy Land. Your mother misses you a lot," Amethyst Elder said. Saint Daughter Ziyun's mouth was trembling. She took a step back and pulled on Hades' era's clothes, saying, "Brother Ha, I won't go." Hades' era furrowed his brows, trying to persuade Ziyun. "That's not right. Little Z, your mother is calling you home for dinner. You can't refuse." Saint Daughter Ziyun really wanted to take a brick and smash it on Hades' era's head. Was this guy's brain filled with spicy strips? Amethyst Elder was so angry that he laughed. This kid had spoken twice, and it seemed that he didn't like Ziyun. He didn't expect that his daughter would be despised by someone else. This kid, did he want to die? "Even if no one wants my daughter, I won't allow you to despise her. Zer, go back with your father." Amethyst Elder shouted. His voice was like thunder, causing the blood snow in the sky to explode. Ziyun was shocked, looking at Amethyst Elder in fear. I won't go back with you." Ziyun took a step back, her face resolute. It was the first time Hades' era saw this girl act like that. He raised his brows, looking at Amethyst Elder. "All right, Zer, it doesn't want to go back. Don't force her. Let's talk nicely. Who do you think you are? Is it your turn to talk? We'll settle our debts later. Not everyone has the right to bully my daughter." Amethyst Elder coldly looked at Hades' era. In the next instant, he waved his hand, and a wave of terrifying energy surged toward Hades' era. The blood snow on the ground exploded, as though it wanted to give Hades' era a show of strength. Hades' eyes narrowed, and the corners of his mouth rose. Raising his hand, he stretched out a finger and gently touched the energy wave. Instantly, the energy wave that Amethyst Elder had sent out collapsed. "You young man, you really have a bad temper. I bully people whenever I want to. Do you think it's your turn to teach me? Who do you think you are?" Hades' era waved his hand, patting the robe on his body. His eyes were full of melancholy. "You bullied my daughter, and you still dare to retaliate. How dare you?" Amethyst Elder was enraged. He roared, and his imposing aura expanded. He took a step forward, and in that instant, it was as though the ground had shrunk to an inch. His figure was as fast as lightning, closing the distance between them, appearing in front of Hades. Their gazes collided fiercely. Their hair fluttered. Amethyst Elder raised his hand, aiming a slap at Hades' head. As Amethyst Elder, his status was noble. Naturally, he had his own way of dealing with enemies. He wanted Ziyun to see the other party's weakness. He wanted her to know that the person she had chosen was wrong. However, in the end, his slap did not land. That was because Hades' era raised his hand, gently patting Amethyst Elder's slap away. Amethyst Elder was stunned. In the next instant, his eyes shrank. to be able to easily deflect his slap. Without a doubt, this kid's cultivation base was high. However, don't think that you could flirt with Amethyst Elder's daughter just because you have a high cultivation base. His aura exploded again, and he punched at Hades' Era. This time, Hades' Era did not hold back. A black gas gushed out, twining around Hades' arm. A wave of energy shook, sending Amethyst Elder flying far away. Saint Daughter Zi Yin instantly bit her lips, her face filled with a complicated expression. Amethyst Elder slowly raised his head, his eyes filled with a murderous aura. This kid was actually a creature of the netherworld. Amethyst Elder's daughter was actually together with a creature of the netherworld. This was something that could not be allowed. On his arm, energy appeared. Amethyst Elder raised his head, his aura exploding. Hades' Era's eyes suddenly focused, looking at Amethyst Elder's arm suspiciously. A young man like you actually has the aura of the netherworld? You're from a netherworld? Creak. It was like a door that had been closed for a long time, suddenly being opened. The creaking sound was a little sharp, piercing people's eardrums. The door was pushed open, and a tall and thin figure walked out from behind the door. Behind that slender figure was a graceful figure. That curvaceous body was full of temptation. The same bed, the same window, the same bathroom. Nothing had changed. Bu Fong and Ni Yin stood in the room. The atmosphere seemed to have become a little awkward. Bu Fong, are you playing a game with me? Going through the door and returning to the same place. Ni Yin lazily raised her eyes, looking at Bu Fong as she spoke. Bu Fong looked at this woman, the corners of his mouth twitching. He did not say anything as he opened the door and walked out. Ni Yin froze, then carefully looked around the room. Although the room was still spotless, Ni Yin's eyes shrank because she found something different. This was not the room they had been in before. It was because the bed in the previous room was not folded neatly because she had been lazing in bed. However, the bed in front of her was very neat. What did this mean? It meant that they had come to another place. How could there be a room like this? He was stunned for a moment. Then he sucked in a breath of cold air. His drowsiness also became a lot clearer, which was rare for him. She hurriedly turned around, following Bu Fong's figure down. Tap, tap. The staircase was very dark. However, the deeper she went, the more she felt a familiar aura. This was in the Valley of Gluttony. The spiritual energy in the air suddenly decreased, not as surging as it was in the Tao Tai restaurant. However, Yin didn't care about that. She came to the staircase and saw Bu Fong turning around to enter the kitchen. She wanted to go in too. However, when she remembered the purple lightning that flashed in the kitchen the last time she touched it, she felt a little guilty. Thus, she did not follow Bu Fong in. Instead, she turned around and walked out of the restaurant. When she arrived at the restaurant, the familiar furnishings made her a little confused. There was no Chu Chong Sheng, no 9 Stripes Path Understanding tree, no black dog lying under the tree, and no netherworld ship. This wasn't the Tao Tai restaurant in the Valley of Gluttony. She lifted her head and looked at the menu on the wall. The familiar names of the dishes on the menu made Ni Yin's pupils shrink again. A sense of familiarity suddenly burst forth in her heart. It was a very familiar feeling. In the kitchen, Bu Fong frowned. He clasped his hands, walking one round in the kitchen. The kitchen was very quiet. Xiao Xiaolong was not there, which made Bu Fong a little suspicious. It shouldn't be. At this time, the restaurant should be open. How could it operate without a chef? Bu Fong remembered that among his 2 apprentices, only Xiao Xiaolong was still in the restaurant. As for Yu Fu, she was practicing her culinary skills in the Serpentine Imperial Palace. After all, if Bu Fong wasn't wrong, Yu Fu should be the Serpentine sovereign of the Serpentine tribe. The kitchen was decorated the same as the other branches. However, since it was the first restaurant Bu Fong stayed in, the air seemed to be filled with a familiar smell. That smell made Bu Fong squint. He really enjoyed this feeling. Walking out of the kitchen, he entered the restaurant. Indeed, the restaurant's door was tightly shut. Yin pulled out a chair and sat down. She propped her chin on her hand, revealing her exquisite face. Her eyes were slightly closed, and she seemed a little sleepy. The sound of Bufong walking out didn't wake her up. Of course, Bufong wouldn't let her continue sleeping. When he passed by Anai Yin, he raised his hand and gently patted her head. Anai Yin was startled awake. She glared at Bufong with an angry gaze. However, Bufong just raised his brows at Anai Yin. Then, he walked to the door and opened it. As soon as the door was opened, light shone in from the outside. A wave of cold air was like a loach entering through the open door. Bufong gently exhaled. He narrowed his eyes and looked outside the open door. What he saw caused his pupils to shrink slightly. Chapter 855. As the chill seeped into Bufong's body trembled slightly. White snow fluttered in the air, and the cold wind blew in from outside the door. It was a white and misty scene outside. However, when Bufong's eyes focused, he looked over and saw many gazes landing on him. These gazes were filled with astonishment. Bufong slightly furrowed his brows. He opened the door completely, then strode toward the outside. Stepping on the thick layer of snow, Bufong took a step forward. Half of his foot was submerged in the snow, and a bone-chilling feeling instantly spread from his thigh to his entire body. Swish! The snow in front of Fong Fong's little store was very thick, as if no one had stepped in for a long time. This made Bufong a little suspicious. With Fong Fong's little store's reputation in the light wind imperial city, how could no one come? Before Bufong left, Fong Fong's little store could be said to be as crowded as a marketplace, and the queue could stretch from the alley to the light wind imperial city's gate. That kind of liveliness was definitely not something an ordinary restaurant could compare to. After all, Fong Fong's little store's status in the light wind imperial city was incomparable. Could it be that something had happened? Bufong furrowed his brows, and many gazes swept over, landing on Bufong's figure, who had opened the door and stepped on the snow. After the astonishment, these gazes turned into ecstasy. Boom! Boom! Snowflakes rustled in the air, and the owners of those gazes quickly rushed toward Bufong. This restaurant, which I couldn't enter, is finally open. A hoarse voice rang out, and then a wave of pitch-black nether energy surged. Many black shadows, treading on the snow, came over without leaving a trace. Bufong slightly froze, and his eyes focused. Sweeping his gaze over, he found these figures. With a glance, his brows furrowed even more. These fellows weren't people that Bufong was familiar with in the Light Wind Empire's capital. Instead, they were all extremely unfamiliar figures. Those silhouettes were donned in armor with ferocious expressions. Their skin was green, and the auras coming from them were extremely powerful. Every single one of them had reached the 9th grade sovereign realm. So many 9th grade supreme martial artists. One had to know that this was the Light Wind Empire's capital, not the Valley of Gluttony, nor the royal court's holy land. In this place, a 9th grade supreme being could already be considered a peak existence. But there were so many 9th grade supreme martial artists. Even if Bufong used his toes to think, he would still understand that the Light Wind Imperial City must have undergone a great change. He thought about how Mo Tianji often talked about the changes in the heavens. Could it be that even the remote Light Wind Empire was affected by this change? I didn't expect there to be someone in this house. Capture this guy. Dedicate it to the leader. Snowflakes danced in the air. A clanging sound was heard. Saber light and sword shadows flashed in an instant. These supreme martial artists all rushed toward Bufong. In reality, these 9th grade supreme martial artists didn't care about Bufong at all. It was really because this empire was too backward. The strongest combat power was only at the 9th grade supreme martial artist level, which was like an ant to them. Taking down this city didn't take any effort at all. Therefore, they didn't care about this young man in front of them at all. Inside Fong Fong's restaurant, Anai Yin rubbed her eyes and slowly walked out. She leaned against the door, as if she didn't understand why it was so noisy outside. The moment Anai Yin appeared, she was discovered by those 9th grade supreme martial artists. The eyes of these 9th grade supreme martial artists instantly turned red. Hiss, there's actually a beauty here. Too beautiful. She's even more beautiful than the ones we caught before. If we hand her over to the leader, she will definitely be a top-grade delicacy. These ninth-grade supreme martial artists opened their mouths, revealing their sharp fangs. Everyone's eyes were bursting with excitement. Some of them stared at Yin, saliva dripping down from their mouths. It was as if they were looking at a top-grade delicacy. To this, Bufong's brows furrowed even tighter. From the words of these monsters, Bufong seemed to hear something bad. It seemed like he needed to interrogate them properly. Rip! The sound of something tearing through the air rang out as a sharp, sawtooth broadsword slashed down at Bufong's head at lightning speed. It seemed like it wanted to cut Bufong into two halves. The visual effect of that broadsword was very shocking. If one was really cut by it, even if he didn't die, he would be seriously injured. However, Bufong didn't seem to care about these broadswords at all. He clasped his hands, slowly walking out, accompanied by the crunching sound of the snow. Buzz in his spirit sea, mental energy surged out violently. In the next instant, the broadsword that were slashing toward his head all stopped. Bufong's true energy cultivation was at the divine soul realm with a one-step soul ladder. However, his mental energy cultivation had long surpassed his true energy cultivation by many folds. His mental energy cultivation was very strong. After all, Bufong's spirit sea was surging. As his mental energy was released, everyone's body seemed to be frozen in the void, unable to move at all. Some people jumped up, waving their broadswords. Their faces were ferocious. However, as they floated in the air, their ferocious faces froze. Some people knelt on one knee, holding a broadsword, intending to stab Bufong's stomach. As they moved, the white snow on the ground froze in the void. Everything seemed to be frozen, and Yin, who was leaning against the door, narrowed her eyes. This move of Bufong's made her feel frightened. It turned out that Owner Boo's cultivation was so strong. How strong was his mental energy to be able to do that? Bufong clasped his hands, leisurely stepping on the snow. He walked in front of a figure. That person's skin was green. His eyes were black, but his pupils were orange-yellow. He had a long, sharp horn on his forehead. His face was ferocious, and he wore a black armor. His aura was like a rainbow. However, at this moment, that person was frozen in the void, unable to move. With his hands clasped behind his back, Bufong walked up to the figure and looked at him indifferently. He raised his hand, and a dark gold flame emerged in his palm. After learning the fire control technique, Bufong's control of the heaven and earth obsidian flame had reached a very skillful level. In fact, Bufong didn't need to use his mouth to summon the heaven and earth obsidian flame. However, the heaven and earth obsidian flame's power was the strongest. The flame burned fiercely, and the temperature rose in just a blink of an eye. The green-skinned expert in front of him was finally able to speak. "Tell me, who are you people?" The dark gold flame on Bufong's finger danced, shining on his face, making him look even more serious. "You lowly ant. We are the demon scorpion race from the ruined prison. If you know what's good for you, let us go. Otherwise, when the 4 great generals and the chief find out, you will be torn into pieces." That expert opened his mouth, roaring. Were they the invaders from the ruined prison? Mo Yi, Mo Sa, and the others were also invaders from the ruined prison. However, compared to Mo Yi and Mo Sa, these fellows in front of them were too weak. "Where's the chef in this restaurant? And the waitress?" Bufong continued to ask. Of course, the chef was Xiao Xiaolong, and the waitress was Ouyang Xiaoi. He hadn't seen that little girl for a long time. Perhaps she had grown up. The chef of this restaurant? Mwahaha, I have to say that the dishes cooked by the chef in this restaurant are really good. The great general favors him a lot, so he brought him back to be his personal chef. That expert from the ruined prison sneered. His personal chef? Bufong's brows furrowed. His terrifying mental energy surged, causing that expert's body to tremble. Xiao Xiaolong was the chef of Fong Fong's little store. It was impossible for them to capture him. Although Bufong wasn't in Fong Fong's little store, the store's defense was still there. The system wouldn't allow Xiao Xiaolong to be captured. Since Xiao Xiaolong was captured, the only reason was that he left the restaurant, which was why he was attacked. There were many ways to make Xiao Xiaolong leave the restaurant. After all, it wasn't hard to find out that Xiao Xiaolong was the young master of the Xiao family. If those experts from the ruined prison couldn't attack, they could use the Xiao family to threaten them. Phew. Bufang gently exhaled, his eyes becoming colder. What about the waitress? Bufang asked. Waitress? You mean that tender little girl? Mwahaha. The great leader took her away. The great leader loves those tender, human women the most. They taste good and are absolutely delicious. Our ruined prison chefs are top-notch when it comes to cooking these women. That expert grinned, narrowing his eyes as he looked at Bufang. He seemed to feel the anger rising from Bufang's body. As he spoke, the expert became even more complacent. The dark gold heaven and earth obsidian flame in Bufang's hand danced unceasingly. All of a sudden, that expert's eyes widened, revealing a crazed smile. You still want to find that little girl? I'm afraid that woman has already become the great leader's meal. Mwahaha, foolish human, die. That expert's body suddenly emitted a wave of energy. Then, from behind him, a scorpion tail shot out like a chain, piercing toward Bufang's head. Its speed was so fast that ordinary people couldn't even catch its speed. This was the demon scorpion race's sure kill attack. It was a necessary sneak attack to deal with an enemy that they couldn't match. If this attack hit, even a divine physique echelon expert who had broken through the shackles would have to bear a grudge. It wasn't because of the piercing power of this attack, but because of the terrifying poison on the scorpion tail. That poison, as long as one touched it, one would die. The demon scorpion race's expert felt the pressure from Bufang's body. He knew that he couldn't defeat Bufang, so he used words to provoke Bufang. Then, he looked for a chance to kill him in one strike. He had used this trick to kill many human experts who were stronger than him. Those foolish humans were like stupid pigs, falling for it every time. The scorpion tail was fast, but in Bufang's eyes, it was so slow. Bufang stretched out his arm, which was wrapped in bandages, and grabbed the scorpion's tail. Mwahaha, foolish human who doesn't know life from death. Die. The demon scorpion race's expert roared. A moment later, the scorpion tail turned, stabbing Bufang's palm. A majestic purple-black venom gushed out. Chapter 856. Massive amounts of purple venom gushed out instantly. The ruined prison expert wore a crazy smile on his face. It was because he realized that the human didn't choose to dodge his venom. He didn't dodge. If he didn't dodge, then he would die. Although the demon scorpion race's venom wasn't considered the top in the ruined prison, in the hidden dragon continent, it was absolutely invincible. Very soon, he would be able to personally witness this human struggling under his venom and being corroded to death by his venom. This human was asking for it. He had used this venom to kill an existence at the peak of the divine physique echelon realm. Even if the other's divine physique was at the top level, under his venom, it still collapsed. Thus, the demon scorpion race expert's eyes revealed a crazy look. However, this crazy look soon froze. The purple-black venom gushed out. Bufang didn't dodge, and his face didn't change at all. It was as if he was facing a ball of water that was sprinkled over. The bandage on the arm suddenly twitched. In the next moment, the bandage spread, and a pitch-black shadow came out of the bandage. Roar! A bestial roar echoed. That bestial roar reverberated, ear-splitting. It made all the demon scorpion race experts dumbstruck. Swish! Like a whale swallowing, all the venom was swallowed by the phantom that appeared on Bufang's arm. After swallowing it, the phantom let out a satisfied burp. The atmosphere became a little awkward. The demon scorpion race expert's eyes widened, gazing at Bufang. He was a little bewildered, a little confused. His entire being was a little confused. What had just happened? That phantom had swallowed his venom and burped. Who was it? Bufang tilted his head, indifferently looking at the demon scorpion race's expert. That fellow dared to sneak up on him. Gently grabbing the scorpion tail, Bufong's palm gently exerted force. Instantly, the scorpion tail made a cracking sound, directly breaking into two halves. How tragic could it be? Bufong already knew what he wanted to know, so he naturally wouldn't show any mercy to these supremes of the demon scorpion race who dared to kill him. He snapped his fingers. Immediately, the dark golden mystic fire in his hand shot out rapidly. In the next instant, those sovereign experts were incinerated into ashes from the inside out, scattering with a gust of wind. Given Bufong's current cultivation state, he could definitely crush all of these supreme beings. And Ai Yin, who was leaning against the door, was also amazed by Bufong's methods. He was able to kill a group of people so easily. The current owner Bu had indeed become somewhat different. And Ai Yin's eyes flickered. Bufong looked at an Ai Yin and said, "Seems like we need to deal with some things first. After we're done, we can help you control the heavenly star catcher disc." And Ai Yin shrugged. She naturally had no objections to this. She also had some feelings for the Light Wind Empire. No matter what, she had lived here for a period of time. After closing the door, Bufong walked out of the alley with his hands clasped behind his back. He wanted to see how the Light Wind Empire had changed. And Ai Yin blindly followed behind Bufong. She didn't say anything, but her heart was filled with anticipation. The two of them walked out of the alley, arriving at a wide street covered in snow. Bufong and Ai Yin stood in the wind. They looked at the empty street and the buildings that were full of ruins. Both of them couldn't help but frown. They could see that the Light Wind Empire seemed to have been burned and looted. Bufong's heart sank. He knew that the expert of the demon scorpion race was telling the truth. The entire Light Wind Empire had fallen. The houses had collapsed, and the buildings had collapsed. There was no one on the street. The once prosperous Light Wind Empire seemed to have been destroyed in a day. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. One after another, figures leaped out from the ruins, each of them holding a sawtooth-like long blade in their hands, looking extremely ferocious. These people were the same as the experts of the demon scorpion race that Bufong had taken care of. Bufong didn't pay it any mind and continued to walk forward as if he was taking a stroll in the park. He raised a hand, gently pointing at the demon scorpion race's expert that was pouncing on him. Then, the demon scorpion race's expert exploded in the void, his body torn into pieces. Boom, boom, boom. In the ruins, the experts of the demon scorpion race stood up one by one, and a terrifying, brutal aura filled the entire city. The eyes of these demon scorpions sparkled, giving people a hair-raising feeling. Bufong, these guys are disgusting. And Ai Yin followed behind Bufong, walking slowly. Like Bufong, she stepped lightly on the white snow. With their strength, it was naturally very easy for them to accomplish this. Roar! The demon scorpion race's experts crawled out of the ruins, roaring crazily. Then, they dashed toward Bufong. There were so many of them that just looking at them would cause one's heart to palpitate. Bufong's face was expressionless, while Ai Yin's face showed a smear of disgust. All of a sudden, Bufong stomped his foot. Instantly, the sky full of snow and wind stopped. The demon scorpion race's experts that were dashing forward froze on the spot, unable to move an inch. Bufong continued forward, clasping his hands behind his back as he brought Ai Yin through the encirclement of the demon scorpion race's experts. Walking out of the encirclement, Bufong wiped his vermilion robe. Raising his hand, he snapped his fingers. Boom! In an instant, the snow and wind rose again. However, these demon scorpion race's experts all screamed miserably. Flames spread out from their bodies, swallowing them, turning them into flaming men. After a sizzling sound, all the demon scorpion race's experts were burned to ashes. The thick snow on the ground melted after the demon scorpion race's experts were burned. As they moved forward, they burned along the way. Bufong's face was expressionless, while Ai Yin's face was filled with disgust. The direction they were heading in was the Light Wind Empire's Imperial Palace. Along the way, there were familiar scenes. However, these scenes were hard to overlap with the scene in their minds. All of the scenes had turned into ruins. However, the majestic imperial palace was still maintained well. The entire imperial city's humans, other than the dead, were all imprisoned in the prison. Light Wind Empire's imperial palace. Main hall of the palace, on the high dragon throne, a burly figure sat cross-legged. This person's figure was filled with muscles. There were 2 horns on his head, and the armor on his body was dark black. This person was the demon scorpion race's commander, a half-step heavenly ethereal realm creature of the netherworld, Siehi. When he first received this mission, Siehi rejected it. However, under pressure, he still agreed to the mission, leading the army to this continent. Siehi liked to eat meat, especially humans. He liked the tender meat of women. He brought a chef from the ruined prison, and one of them was especially good at cooking women. As long as it was a woman that passed through his hands, the dishes he made were all top-grade delicacies. Siehi reclined on the chair. Behind him was a man wearing a black chef robe. This man was from the demon scorpion race. He was the chef from the ruined prison that Siehi brought. That chef's eyes shone with a hint of malice. Suddenly, below the main hall, several figures appeared, escorting a slender, unbelievably beautiful person. If Bufong was here, he would definitely recognize this person's identity. It was the first customer of Fong Fong's little store, the Xiao family's young master, Xiao Xiaolong. His identity was noble, and he was Bufong's apprentice chef. The current Xiao Xiaolong looked a little disheveled. The hair on his head was incomparably dirty, and his face was unkempt. His eyes were bloodshot. The disaster came too quickly. The people of the imperial city did not even have time to react. Those terrifying and hateful pirates had already taken down the imperial city. The moment Xiao Xiaolong appeared, the expression of a chef standing behind the demon scorpion instantly changed. That gaze became a little resentful and vigilant, as if Xiao Xiaolong was going to steal something precious from him. The leader looked at Xiao Xiaolong with an excited expression. He had eaten the delicacies cooked by Xiao Xiaolong before. That taste made all the pores on his body open up. It made him extremely excited and unforgettable. He liked to eat the dishes cooked by Xiao Xiaolong. Therefore, after conquering the Light Wind Imperial capital, he didn't kill Xiao Xiaolong. Instead, he kept Xiao Xiaolong alive. He wanted to make Xiao Xiaolong his personal chef and cook delicious food for him. Xiao Xiaolong naturally did not agree to the demon scorpion leader's request. He was the chef of Fong Fong's little store, the apprentice chef of Owner Bu. How could he become the personal chef of this invader? This was something he would not do even if he was beaten to death. Xiao Xiaolong was a little angry in his heart. Originally, if he stayed in Fong Fong's little store, these people from the demon scorpion race would not be able to do anything to him. However, these people used Xiao Yinyu to threaten him. This left him with no other choice. Therefore, he walked out of Fong Fong's little store and became this guy's prisoner. How many days has it been? Why haven't you agreed to this leader's request? Siehi sat on the dragon throne, looking at Xiao Xiaolong, who was being escorted up, and the corners of his mouth curled up into a smile. Although a smile appeared on his face, Siehi's heart was already a little impatient. This ant-like human kept rejecting him. Could it be that being Siehi's personal chef was not as comfortable as being a chef in a mere restaurant? After experiencing a few rejections, Siehi's heart finally became a little angry. You demon, even if I, Xiao Xiaolong, die, I will not be your chef. Give up on this thought. Xiao Xiaolong was as handsome as a woman, but when he became cold, he was a little domineering. Siehi coldly smiled. He seemed to have already met that Xiao Xiaolong would not obediently give in. Therefore, this time he was prepared. This leader is persuading you with kind words, but you don't want face when I give it. This leader does not have that much patience to waste with you. Siehi coldly smiled. His eyes were clear, as though they were emitting light. In the next instant, he clapped his hands. The ground of the imperial palace instantly let out a rumbling sound. Xiao Xiaolong froze. His pupils suddenly shrank as he looked in that direction. He saw that on the ground, a cage slowly rose from within. Within that cage, there were 2 people imprisoned. When Xiao Xiaolong saw these 2 people, his heart suddenly shrank, and the expression in his eyes suddenly changed. Those two people were none other than his blood sister, Xiao Yinyu, and Ouyang Xiaoi, who had a very good relationship with him. At this moment, the two people's faces were a little pale, and they dispiritedly fell within the cage. Xie looked at Xiao Xiaolong's face that had changed and instantly grinned. I'll ask one more time. Do you agree or not? If you don't agree, I will let my chef personally cook your family and friends in front of you, Xie said. As his voice fell, the sinister-looking chef wearing a black chef robe, who was standing beside him, suddenly had a light flash in his eyes. His figure seemed to have teleported, appearing in front of the cage. He opened his mouth, his gaze fixed on the beautiful and cute Ouyang Xiaoi in the cage, revealing a look of excitement. It's really a top-notch ingredient, that chef said. After Ouyang Xiaoi, who was in the cage, heard this, her eyelashes instantly trembled. She opened her eyes, revealing a look of fear. Xiao Xiaolong's chest was completely filled with rage. He wanted to let out a roar, but his heart was filled with helplessness. The strength of these demons was too strong, making him completely unable to resist. Chapter 857. This chef was a member of the Demon Chef clan in the ruined prison. Xie liked to eat, so he had found this demon chef to be his chef. In reality, this decision was the right one. After all, he was a member of the Demon Chef clan. The dishes he cooked were delicious, and his skills were superb. Most importantly, the Demon Chef clan specialized in using spices. The combination of various spices could make the fragrance of the dishes reach the peak. Mo grinned, his eyes looking as though he had found his prey, bursting with brilliance. He raised his hand, and his long fingernails gently knocked on the steel cage, making a clanging sound. It's really an excellent ingredient. Mo laughed hoarsely, his face revealing a look of desire and excitement. In his mind, he was already thinking about what kind of spices to pair with this ingredient so that the taste of the ingredient could be brought out to the peak. Ouyang Xiaoi, who was in the cage, was trembling all over. She had already grown up. Although her little face still had a hint of immaturity, she was no longer the little girl from before. She now had the seductive and graceful figure of a young girl. She had become even more slender and elegant, and her beauty was not inferior to Xiao Yinyu's. Xiao Yinyu was also in the cage. Although she looked to be in a sorry state, her gaze was very calm. She was a cultured and reasonable woman. She was very quiet, always giving people a very ethereal feeling. Facing death, she was not that afraid. Although her gaze was trembling, revealing the nervousness in her heart, compared to Ouyang Xiaoi, she was still much calmer. This kind of calmness made the demon chef, Mo, a little unhappy. Crack! The demon chef, Mo's palm, suddenly grabbed the steel cage, and the steel bars of the cage were directly crushed by him. Although Mo was just a chef, his cultivation was not weak. He had the cultivation of the divine physique echelon. After all, as a chef, facing all kinds of ingredients, if he did not have enough cultivation, he would sometimes be a loss. Let them go. Xiao Xiaolong was enraged to the extreme. His fair face was flushed red because of his anger. He breathed heavily through his nose, and his body was filled with raging flames of anger. It's very simple to let them go. You just have to be my personal chef and cook for me. Then I can let these two women live a little longer. Xie, who was sitting on the dragon throne, said with a smile. Xiao Xiaolong suddenly raised his head, his eyes surging with rage. Dream on. Bufang walked slowly with his hands behind his back. He entered the Tianxin Gate and headed for the palace. The Gate of Heavenly Mystery was no stranger to Bufang. He had walked through it many times and even cooked at the 100 family banquet. As he stepped on the snow, it made a crunching sound. Yin followed behind Bufang. Suddenly, the two of them stopped in their tracks. The vermilion robe on Bufang's body glowed in the wind and snow, fluttering in the wind. The thick pile of snow on the ground suddenly exploded. One after another, pitch-black figures shot up from under the snow, causing snowflakes to fly everywhere. These were the experts of the demon scorpion race. They soared into the sky, and their first move was a sure kill move. The scorpion tail shot out. Under the sunlight, the scorpion tail blossomed with resplendent venom. Die! These demon scorpion experts that emerged from the snow were much stronger than those that Bufang had encountered previously. They were basically all divine body echelon existences. Their auras were stronger, and their venomous tails were faster. It seemed like they wanted to kill with one strike. However, Bufang's face didn't change at all. His spirit sea surged, and in the next instant, his mental energy spread out. The terrifying mental energy caused the surroundings to stagnate, and everything became stagnant in the air. Those demon scorpion experts with ferocious faces were sealed in the void. Bufang looked at them indifferently. He raised his hand, flicking his finger. The dark golden flame rapidly dashed out, instantly drilling into the bodies of every expert of the demon scorpion clan. From the inside out, it started to burn. These experts of the demon scorpion race turned into ashes one by one. Even if they were divine body echelon existences, under Bufang's heaven and earth obsidian flame, they were still fragile. Rumble, the ashes fell together with the white snow, and the air was filled with the smell of burning. Bufang didn't care. He clasped his hands, continuing to move forward. His mental energy spread out, instantly spreading to the entire imperial palace. Suddenly, he narrowed his eyes because he saw a familiar person in his psychic power. However, that familiar person's appearance made Bufang's face darken. An Yin followed behind Bufang. Seeing Bufang's expression change, she was slightly stunned. She could feel that owner Bu seemed to be a little angry. Imperial Palace Hall, the expression of the demon scorpion race's leader, Xie, who was sitting on the dragon throne, suddenly changed. His gaze focused into the distance. Just now, his heart suddenly palpitated. It was as if his entire person was exposed to some kind of spying. Who dared to spy on him? In this backward human empire, could it be that there was still an almighty human existence? That was impossible. He must have sensed wrongly just now. Xie's eyes narrowed, becoming a little more sinister. His gaze landed on Xiao Xiaolong, who would risk his life to not agree to his request. In that instant, he was a little dispirited. Imo, I allow you to start cooking. I hope you won't disappoint this leader. Xie said. When that Imo heard Xie's words, the aura on his body instantly burst forth. The sinister face that was wrapped in the black robe revealed a trace of excitement. Many thanks to leader for granting my wish. With such a top-grade ingredient, Imo will definitely not disappoint leader. With a wave of his hand, the steel bars of the cage were all shattered. Ouyang Xiaoi and Xiao Yinyu's delicate bodies trembled. Don't come over. No matter how calm Xiao Yinyu was at this moment, she still felt a little flustered. Could it be that they were really going to die here today? The disaster came too quickly. Xiao Yinyu and Ouyang Xiaoi found it hard to accept. Xiao Xiaolong furiously roared. He wanted to struggle. However, his cultivation was too weak, and he could not break free from the demon scorpion race's restraints. He could only watch as that disgusting demon chef, Imo, approached Xiao Yinyu and Ouyang Xiaoi step by step. My little darlings, don't be afraid. If you're afraid, the quality of the meat won't be good. Come, give his chef a smile. Imo approached step by step. His hand shook, and a kitchen knife instantly fell into his hand. The appearance of that kitchen knife was very strange. In reality, it did not look like a kitchen knife. It was a bone knife that was sharpened from the leg bones of some spirit beast. The white kitchen knife was engraved with demonic runes, causing the knife to be filled with a strange fluctuation and be incomparably sharp. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The kitchen knife spun in Imo's hand. The saber light flickered, and waves of energy spread out. His mouth opened, and his tongue hung down, revealing a sinister smile. That smile caused Xiao Yinyu and Ouyang Xiaoi's bodies to tremble even more. On the dragon throne, the demon scorpion race's leader, Xie, also slightly narrowed his eyes, revealing a look of anticipation. Xiao Xiaolong's eyes widened. They were bloodshot, and his anger surged violently. However, he could not do anything. He could only watch. He watched as that kitchen knife continuously approached Xiao Yinyu and Ouyang Xiaoi. Within the entire imperial palace, all of the demon scorpion race's experts let out a cold laugh. The kitchen knife emitted a cold light as it neared Ouyang Xiaoi. IMO had his own way of dealing with these ingredients. The demon chefs were good at cooking, and they were good at using spices. Around his body, white bone jars that contained a rich fragrance floated up, revolving around his body. There was a smacking sound. The kitchen knife was grasped accurately by Imo. At this moment, Imo's eyes suddenly widened. The knife was aimed at Ouyang Xiaoi's artery, tearing it apart. To deal with ingredients, one had to first bleed. Imo's tongue stretched out, his face filled with anticipation for the scene of fresh blood spurting out. The fragrance of fresh blood caused his entire body to slightly tremble. That was an excited tremble. Ouyang Xiaoi was so scared that she tightly closed her eyes. Her entire person was shrouded in despair. Her heart was like dead ashes. Chapter 858. A faint voice reverberated throughout the entire imperial palace, reverberating in everyone's ears. Ouyang Xiaoi opened her eyes, looking at the familiar figure in the distance. In an instant, her entire person froze on the spot. In the next instant, her big eyes instantly emitted a light of excitement. Tears appeared in her eyes, almost flowing out. It's him. It's really him. Ouyang Xiaoi did not think that she would actually see this person before she died. As long as this person was here, everything seemed to become very calm and peaceful, because that person could give people a huge sense of security. The feeling of death that she felt when the kitchen knife approached her body instantly faded away. In front of her, that demon chef Mo's body froze on the spot, not moving at all. Only that long tongue was still continuously dripping saliva. Extremely disgusting. Ouyang Xiaoi's eyes widened. Her jade-like nose wrinkled, letting out an angry snort. Looking at the other party, not moving. Ouyang Xiaoi did not know where she got the strength from, but with a kick, she landed on that demon chef on Mo's lower body. Demon chef on Mo's stiff body suddenly trembled. His body was completely suppressed by Bu Fang's mental force, completely unable to move. However, that kind of pain could not be faked. The feeling of his lower body being torn apart caused Mo's entire body to tremble violently. His originally green face instantly turned red, and then from red to purple. Red to purple. Who asked a disgusting fellow like you to threaten your grandaunt with a knife? Ouyang Xiaoi seemed to feel that one kick was not enough, so she ruthlessly kicked him a few more times. Demon chef Imo almost vomited blood, his eyes wide open, densely bloodshot. Although his body was unable to move, after being kicked a few times, his lower body was almost about to explode, and his figure was also kicked to the ground. So exciting. Ouyang Xiaoi's face was flushed red, incomparably excited. She screamed, feeling Xiao Yinyu's shoulder shake. At this moment, Xiao Yinyu's eyes were still tightly shut. Although she appeared calm, in reality, she did not want to die. Sister Yinyu, quickly open your eyes. The smelly boss is here to save us. The smelly boss is back. Ouyang Xiaoi shook Xiao Yinyu's shoulder and almost screamed in excitement. She seemed to have forgotten that she was still a prisoner. Xiao Yinyu's long eyelashes trembled as she slowly opened her eyes. She thought that Ouyang Xiaoi was just spouting nonsense out of fear. However, when she opened her eyes, the first thing she saw was a familiar figure standing at the entrance with his hands behind his back. That person was none other than Honorbu, whom he had not seen for a long time. That man really came back. The rims of Xiao Yinyu's eyes reddened in an instant. It was as if all the grievances she had suffered for the past few days burst forth at this moment. Xiao Xiaolong was pressed to the ground. He didn't want to see his sister's blood splattered on the spot, nor did he want to see Ouyang Xiaoi being beheaded alive. However, a familiar voice rang out. This caused him to be stunned. He slowly turned his head and saw Bu Fong, who was standing at the door. The experts of the demon scorpion race in the main hall did not expect such a turn of events. To them, the Light Wind Empire was too weak. It should be impossible for an expert of Bu Fong's level to appear. The demon scorpion race's leader narrowed his eyes. The stagnant feeling in the air caused his heart to shiver. The mental energy of the guy in front of him seemed to be a little too strong. "Who are you?" Sitting on the dragon throne. He was still that indifferent. He didn't seem to be flustered because of Bu Fong's appearance. Bu Fong indifferently glanced at the demon scorpion race's leader. He didn't care about the other party's question, and he didn't reply. He just clasped his hands like that, slowly walking forward. The clear sound of footsteps resounded in the entire main hall. Everyone felt their hearts clench. In the next instant, Bu Fong came to the side of the demon scorpion race's expert, who was holding Xiao Xiaolong. "Who am I?" Bu Fong raised his hand, patting the bodies of the two demon scorpion race's experts who couldn't move at all. He calmly said. The faces of the two demon scorpion race's experts revealed a kind of fear. They wanted to escape, but they were locked by a powerful mental energy. Swish! Their tails shot out. They wanted to pierce through Bu Fong. However, Bu Fong had long seen through the demon scorpion race's trick. Before the tails could even get close, they were burned and evaporated by the two dark gold flames. "I'm just a chef. The little guy you're holding is my apprentice chef," Bu Fong expressionlessly said. Then, the heaven and earth obsidian flame rapidly surged around his body, turning into a roaring fire dragon. It swallowed the two demon scorpion race's experts, burning them into ashes in just a blink of an eye. What the fire control technique brought to Bu Fong was not only the control of the flames, but also an attack technique that could crush the enemy. For existences weaker than him, it was basically an instant kill. Xiao Xiaolong felt his body loosen. Then, he suddenly jumped up from the ground. His tearful eyes stared at Bu Fong, his heart extremely excited. "Bu, Owner Bu," Xiao Xiaolong said. Ouyang Xiaoyi and Xiao Yinyu also ran over from afar, holding hands as they went to Bu Fong's side. They did not think that they could survive. Although they were shocked, they were still a little happy. Bu Fong looked at the slender and elegant Ouyang Xiaoyi, who was almost at his neck. He couldn't help but raise the corner of his mouth. He reached out his hand, rubbing the other party's head. Then, he looked at the demon scorpion race's leader sitting on the dragon throne. He suddenly retracted his mental force. The moment he retracted it, within the imperial palace, a miserable howl like a pig being slaughtered resounded. Not far away, the demon chef, Mo, who was lying on the ground, clutched his lower body. He rolled on the ground, letting out a miserable howl that made people's hairs stand on end. It seemed that it was really painful. That pitiful look made Ouyang Xiaoyi a little embarrassed. However, soon, her neck stiffened. This disgusting fellow deserved it. He was the ingredient. His whole family was ingredients. You ingredient. Damn it. The demon chef, Mo, clutched his lower body, grabbing the kitchen knife as he stood up from the ground. His face was ferocious and terrifying. The tearing pain in his lower body caused his eyes to be filled with killing intent. Right now, he only wanted to slice off the meat on that ingredient's body, slice by slice. Boom! A palm slammed onto the dragon throne, and the armrest of the dragon throne instantly shattered, unable to bear the heavy pressure. He stood up from his seat, looking down at Bu Fong. A terrifying aura emitted from his body. "You're a non-human expert, yet you dare to come and save people? Who gave you the courage?" He coldly laughed. Bu Fong's mental force was strong, but his true energy cultivation was only at the divine soul realm with a one-step soul ladder. He was a half-step heavenly ethereal realm expert from the ruined prison. If converted to the hidden dragon continent strength, it would be around the divine soul realm with a 7-step soul ladder. With this kind of strength, he was an invincible existence in the entire southern region. He could look down on everyone. A mere one-step soul ladder human ant actually dared to show off in front of him. "Smelly boss, where's the Lord go?" "I'll let you, the Lord, go. Slap this guy to death with one claw." Ouyang Xiaoi seemed to have more confidence because of Bu Fang's return. She was filled with dissatisfaction towards Xie, who was looking down on her, as she directly shouted. This girl's trust towards the Lord Go was almost blind. After all, the son of the Lord Go was invincible in her heart. Bu Fang's eyebrows twitched. He looked at Ouyang Xiaoi, his face expressionless. This time, only an Yin and I came back. The Lord Go, he's a bit busy. Bu Fang said. What he said was the truth. The Lord Go was indeed a bit busy. The guy was busy sleeping. Ouyang Xiaoi felt very regretful that the Lord Go did not return. This girl raised her head and looked at Bu Fang, her eyes filled with distrust. Smelly boss, can you do it? Bu Fang took in a deep breath. He felt that he should indeed find something to stuff this girl's mouth. This girl had grown taller, and her tongue had become more venomous. Retreat. Go to Yan's side. Bu Fang could not be bothered with Ouyang Xiaoi's strange gaze, as he calmly said. In the distance, an Yin, who was wearing a white muslin dress, smiled and waved at Ouyang Xiaoi and the rest. That absolutely beautiful smile that blossomed in an instant caused everyone's breathing to stop. Xiao Xiaolong eagerly went over. Ouyang Xiaoi also eagerly ran over, sweetly calling out elder sister and Yin. The corner of Bu Fang's mouth twitched. He felt that his position was being challenged in his eyes. Owner Bu, be careful, Xiao Yin gently said as she looked at Bu Fang. This actually made Bu Fang feel a little more at ease. There was still someone who cared about him. Proudly nodding his head, Bu Fang continued to look at the leader of the demon-scorpion race in the distance, Xie. Boom, boom, boom. However, Xie did not move. The four corners of the great hall exploded, for powerful auras gushed out, and a terrifying gust of wind, wrapped in dense nether energy, rushed toward Bu Fang. Xie coldly watched. If you want to save him, you have to get past the four great generals of my demon-scorpion race. Chapter 859. The four great generals of the demon-scorpion race were, in reality, the four fierce generals under Xie, the chief of the demon-scorpion race. Every one of them had reached the divine soul realm, and they all had their own powerful sure-kill skills. The demon-scorpion race was considered a big race in the ruined prison, and there were many chief-level experts. The peak existences of the demon-scorpion race were similar to the peak existences of the demon eye race. They were existences of the demon king level. There were 8 demon kings in the ruined prison, and every demon king represented a big race. They were extremely terrifying. Although Xie, was not a peak expert of the demon-scorpion race, he still had the heart of an expert. In the Hidden Dragon Continent's southern region, this backward place, Xie could definitely dominate. Adding on his 4 great generals, even if he attacked the central region of the Hidden Dragon Continent, it would not be a problem. However, he did not, because there were still many mysteries that had not been unearthed in the southern region. That secret was the main reason why the demon-scorpion race's experts had transported his troops to this region, because it was a thankless task. However, Xie did not think so. Being an invincible overlord in this world was actually very satisfying. Although the Hidden Dragon Continent was much more backward than the ruined prison, there were still some peak experts, just like the Holy Lord level existences of the Holy Lands. If Xie, encountered such existences, he would be instantly killed. He would rather be the head of a chicken than the tail of Phoenix. Xie's dream was very simple, to be the local overlord in peace. This kind of life of controlling everything made him enjoy it very much. Bu Fang's appearance could be considered an accident. Luckily, this guy who appeared was not very strong. With the cultivation of the 4 great generals, it was enough to completely kill this reckless human. Bu Fang stood with his hands behind his back. Towards the 4 great generals who were attacking from 4 different directions, he did not care in the slightest. These 4 great generals all had different appearances. Some looked rough, some looked enchanting, some were sharp and unkind, and some were incomparably slow. 3 men and 1 woman. They were Xie's 4 great generals. How come there is still a reckless human? A rough expert opened his mouth and let out a tyrannical laugh. Around him, sand and stones flew, and he held a big machete that was covered with dense patterns. Brandishing his machete, he slashed down at Bufong. The other 3 generals stopped attacking and floated in the void of the hall, looking at Bufong with great interest. In their eyes, a human at the divine soul realm with a one-step soul ladder should be enough to deal with him. The sharp blade aura spread out, cutting the ground and causing it to crack. Bufong's vermilion robe was fluttering in the wind. He frowned slightly and looked at the powerful figure that was slashing down on his head. The spiritual force in his spirit sea suddenly surged. The golden dragon entrenched in the sea of consciousness immediately let out a sonorous dragon roar. Boom! With Bufong's body as the center, the surging spiritual power instantly spread out. The general's body immediately stiffened, and the saber that was slashing down suddenly stopped for a moment. Green smoke curled up from Bufong's hand, and suddenly a pitch-black walk spun rapidly, hovering in the sky. Buzz the black turtle constellation walk appeared, and an earthy yellow halo instantly sparkled on the black turtle constellation walk. Bufong's mind controlled the black turtle constellation walk. With a move of his mind, it fiercely smashed down in the direction where the machete was looking. A crisp sound rang out. The general's face instantly changed. He felt a numbness in his hand, which was almost cracked by this walk. The demon scorpion race's general felt extremely sullen. The surging spiritual force had a huge impact on his movements, making his movements a little sluggish. This made him extremely irritable. His eyes were like 2 lanterns twinkling with radiance. The big machete danced, unceasingly tearing the air. Behind this general was a huge shadow of a devil scorpion. The demon scorpion's tail was swaying, and it opened its mouth, letting out a roar. All of a sudden, it fiercely charged towards Bufong. The black turtle constellation walk spun rapidly, falling on top of Bufong's head. Although his true energy cultivation wasn't very strong, he had the black turtle constellation walk. The black turtle constellation walk had its own pressure, and with his spiritual force that far surpassed his cultivation, dealing with the general was still very easy. With a flick of his finger, he gently flicked the black turtle constellation walk. Instantly, the black turtle constellation walk whizzed out. All of a sudden, it fiercely smashed towards the general. With a boom, the demon scorpion phantom was smashed into pieces. Boom! The phantom was smashed, but the general's figure fiercely pounced towards Bufong. His body twisted, and suddenly, claws ferociously stretched out from his body. Boom! Landing on the ground, he turned into a 2-meter-tall, giant demon scorpion. Da-da-da! The scorpion's legs quickly crawled on the ground, speeding towards Bufong. The sharp inverted scorpion tail swayed in the air, as if it was waiting for an opportunity to pierce through Bufong. He didn't expect that the general would actually turn into a giant scorpion. Bufong's brows slightly twitched. I don't really like scorpions, but if it's possible, I don't mind cooking it, Bufong calmly said. His voice rang out, causing the expressions of the demon scorpion race's experts to suddenly change. The demon scorpion race's chief, Xie, was even more enraged. You humans are our ingredients. Such an audacious fellow. Let's go together and tear him apart for me. I want to personally eat this arrogant human bit by bit. In the air, the eyes of the remaining 3 generals also focused, feeling that Bufong was a little too arrogant. Boom! A terrifying aura also exploded from the 3 of them. In the next instant, they all turned into 2-meter-tall, giant demon scorpions. After landing, they almost filled the entire Great Hall of the Imperial Palace. Da-da-da! Da-da-da! The scorpion's legs rapidly slid on the ground. Every time they landed, the ground would shatter. And Yin brought Ouyang Xiaoyi and the others, retreating far away. They did not join in this battle. And Yan's current state was extremely unstable, and she did not dare to join in this kind of battle. After all, the power of the stars in her mind was too terrifying, and she was unable to control it. And Yin believed that Bufang would definitely be able to easily finish off these giant scorpions. Moreover, with Onerbu's character, these demon scorpions might even become ingredients. Being surrounded by 4 giant demon scorpions, monstrous nether energy filled the air. Bufang was very calm. He was someone who had even seen the blood-illuminating dragon, a giant from hell. How could he be frightened by the pressure of these demon scorpions? Although he was surrounded, Bufang still had a calm and collected look. The black turtle constellation Wak was recalled, floating above his head. Looking at these 4 giant demon scorpions, the corner of Bufang's mouth involuntarily twitched. He raised his hand, slowly untying the black and white bandage on his arm. After the bandage was undone, the black and white bandage was revealed. Roar! A wild and domineering beast roar suddenly resounded in everyone's ears. The 4 demon scorpions felt a shiver run down their spines. They had a bad premonition, so they didn't dare to confront Bufang any longer. A giant demon scorpion opened its mouth and hissed. Its body dashed forward, its scissor-like mouth opening and closing, revealing its sharp, sawtooth-like mouth. Clang! All of a sudden, that demon scorpion leaped up, aiming to bite Bufang. However, its scissor-like mouth didn't bite Bufang. Instead, it bit the black turtle constellation Wak in Bufang's hand. The stiff black turtle constellation Wak made the demon scorpion's mouth soften. Its scissor-like mouth almost broke. The energy of the black and white Taotai gushed out. Bufang felt his body was filled with terrifying energy. Although he didn't become a giant like Chu Changsheng, Bufang's body had reached an extremely formidable level, which had surpassed the divine soul realm with a one-step soul ladder. Swinging the black turtle constellation Wak, the demon scorpion retreated several steps. Bufang's body moved for the first time. His clothes fluttered. Bufang leaped up, landing on the demon scorpion's back. However, the demon scorpion was delighted. It wasn't easy to stand on a scorpion's back. Swish! At first glance, people could tell it was a black scorpion tail filled with extreme poison. It roared, aiming at Bufang's head. It wanted to pierce through Bufang's head in just a blink of an eye. Buzz! A dragon roar resounded. Everybody's eyes were dazzled for a moment. A moment later, they saw a gold kitchen knife appear in Bufang's hand. Bufang held the enlarged dragon bone kitchen knife in one hand, with the black turtle constellation Wak in one hand and the dragon bone kitchen knife in the other. Stepping on the demon scorpion, he looked so domineering. Bufang didn't even look at the scorpion tail behind him. He gently swung the dragon bone kitchen knife behind him. The scorpion tail was cut off. Dark green fluid gushed out. The demon scorpion under Bufang's feet became incomparably wild. Cutting off its tail was the same as cutting off its lifeblood. It shook hard, swaying left and right as it struggled crazily. Bufang stood on the demon scorpion's back, his face emotionless. He gently exhaled. "You'd better behave yourself." A moment later, the black turtle constellation Wak enlarged. Bufang held in one hand, smashing it down. Chapter 860. On Bufang's arm, there was a black and white radiance circulating. That was the black and white Taoyes Taotai souls activating it, causing Bufang's physical strength to rise to another level. Moreover, his strength had become extremely terrifying. The enlarged black turtle constellation Wak was much bigger than Bufang's entire body. However, it was easily lifted up by Bufang, then ruthlessly smashed toward the demon scorpion beneath his feet. The Wak solidly smashed onto the demon scorpion's head. That demon scorpion was instantly smashed onto the ground, causing the ground to crack. Fine cracks spread out in all directions. It was just a Wak, but it had already smashed this demon scorpion into a daze. The remaining 3 demon scorpions also let out roars, moving one after another. Bufang's expression was indifferent. His feet lightly tapped on the demon scorpion's body, Then his figure floated up. That half-dead demon scorpion was swept away by the black turtle constellation walk, collecting it. Bufong's gaze turned, landing on the remaining 3 demon scorpions. With the black turtle constellation walk in one hand and the dragon bone kitchen knife in the other. On top of the kitchen knife, a resplendent golden radiance circulated. True energy poured into the dragon bone kitchen knife. A loud dragon roar rang out, and the 3-headed demon scorpion's body shook. A wave of terrifying dragon might was emitted from the kitchen knife in the human's hand. Boom! The 3-headed demon scorpion felt a wave of trembling, and its movements became sluggish. However, their movements became sluggish, but Bufong's movements did not. Stepping in the air, he quickly appeared in front of a demon scorpion. He raised the black turtle constellation walk, then smashed down. A muffled bang rang out. That demon scorpion was deeply smashed into the ground. It did not move for a long time. The walk smashed down, causing the other party to be dumbfounded. In the distance, Ouyang Xiaoyi and the rest watched with faces full of excitement. Honorbu was indeed Honorbu. He still wielded a wok so dazzlingly, so violently, on the dragon throne. Chief Xie, he did not think that his 4 generals would actually be defeated like this. This made his heart involuntarily raise a wave of vigilance. This human was strange. A kitchen knife and a wok. He really was a F***king chef. But was there such a violent chef? Light flashed in Xie's eyes. Boom! Bufong smashed the wok down again, instantly causing Xie's heart to tremble. The last demon scorpion was also smashed onto the ground by Bufong. Then they were all sucked into the black turtle constellation wok by Bufong. The black turtle constellation wok became extremely huge and was lifted up by Bufong with a single hand. Within that wok were the 4 great generals of Xie. The rage on Xie's body was surging. Was this human in front of him planning to cook his 4 generals? They actually dared to humiliate their demon scorpion race like this. He was courting death. Boom, boom, boom. Within the black turtle constellation wok, sounds of collisions could be heard continuously. The 4 demon scorpions seemed to be struggling to get out. However, under the suppression of Bufong's powerful mental power, the 4 demon scorpions were unable to crawl out. Opening his mouth, a ball of dark gold flame shot out from within Bufong's mouth. The heaven and earth obsidian flame wrapped around Bufong's body, being controlled by his fire control technique. The temperature continuously rose, and very quickly, it reached an extremely terrifying level. His mind flickered. That dragon-like flame shot out, drilling into the black turtle constellation wok. In an instant, the flames within the black turtle constellation wok flourished. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. The vibration within the wok became even more intense, and the black turtle constellation wok even began to sway left and right. The leader of the demon scorpion race, Xie, was enraged to the extreme. On his body, a tyrannical energy suddenly burst forth, instantly shattering the dragon throne. Xie was enraged, stepping on the air as he rose. The energy on his body was also rapidly rising. After all, he was a half-step into the heavenly ethereal realm expert, and his strength was extremely powerful. The air within the entire imperial palace became stagnant at this moment. The breathing of Ouyang Xiaoyi and the rest became a little hurried, and Ayan seemed to have noticed this point as well. With a flip of her hand, dots of starlight instantly floated out, forming an energy barrier around them. Just by doing this, Ayan's face became a little pale. It was as if she had used up all the energy in her body, and her entire person became a little drowsy. Xie domineeringly stepped on the air, and with a clanging sound, a battle axe appeared in his hand as he slowly raised it up. That battle axe was blood red in color, and it was filled with a murderous aura. Die! Xie was enraged to the extreme. Bufong actually dared to humiliate their demon scorpion race like this. If this could be tolerated, what could not? With both hands holding the battle axe, he fiercely chopped it down in the direction of Bufong. This axe seemed as though it was going to shatter the void of this world. A huge axe shadow appeared, slowly moving. Under the sharpness of this axe, fine cracks appeared in the void. After all, it was a half-step into the heavenly ethereal realm, and its aura was shocking. Compared to the four great generals, it was much stronger. A terrifying wind blew over, causing the clothes on Bufong's body to flutter. His hair also broke free from the velvet rope, fluttering in all directions. The faces of Xiao Xiaolong and the rest became deathly white. This was the first time they saw Xie make a move. No one would have thought that this Xie would actually be so terrifying. That was a kind of power that far surpassed their understanding. This kind of existence, how could they be his opponent? Honorbu's opponent was actually such a powerful character. After Xiao Yinyu and the rest recovered from the shock, worry appeared in their eyes. That was worry for Bufong. They were really afraid that Bufong would not be able to block that Xie and would be chopped into two halves by that axe. However, Bufong's expression seemed to be very calm, not the slightest bit affected by the other party's aura. His hand shook, and the dazzling golden dragon bone kitchen knife fell into his hand. The dragon bone kitchen knife released a golden brilliance, and the roar of a dragon rang out. As for Bufong, he single-handedly grabbed the Black Turtle Constellation Walk. Within the Black Turtle Constellation Walk, the heaven and earth obsidian flame burned. Holding onto the kitchen knife, he pointed it at Xie. His expression was indifferent as he slowly opened his mouth. Overlord 13 Blades. Chop! In the next instant, Bufong raised the true energy in his body, slashing at Xie with the Overlord 13 Blades. Bufong's current Overlord 13 Blades had already reached an extremely powerful level, and he could continuously swing out 11 blades. 11 blades stacked together, and the power was enough to kill an almighty existence. 1 blade, 2 blades, as the blade energy continuously stacked together behind Bufong, there seemed to be a phantom that appeared. That phantom held a huge blade in its hand, slashing forward. Its closed eyes slowly opened, as though it was tearing the sky apart, making everyone feel as though everything in front of them had lost its luster. 11 blades stacked together, and the power shook the heavens, able to shatter the heavens. Xie was a little panicked. He suddenly felt his heart palpitate as that blade energy came slashing over. He felt as though he was as weak as a paper tiger, and that he could easily be torn apart by that blade. The axe shadow and that blade energy collided together. The result was very obvious, and it did not exceed anyone's expectations. Without a single sound, his axe shadow was shattered by the blade energy that Bufong had slashed out. The power of the blade energy did not decrease. The Overlord Absolute might behind Bufong's back, and the terrifying pressure made Xie let out a hiss. Xie's body suddenly twisted, then transformed into an even larger demon scorpion. Compared to the 4 great generals, the demon scorpion in front of him was even bigger. It was a full 3 meters tall like a small mountain, giving people a terrifying pressure. However, even Xie, who had transformed into the true body of a demon scorpion, still felt his heart tremble. That pitch-black barbed tail of his rapidly pierced out, wanting to clash with that blade energy. The attack of his tail was his strongest attack. This move could be counted as staking everything on one throw. However, his tail broke. Under the stacking of these 11 blades, Xie's tail was forcefully cut off by the blade energy. The pain instantly surged and covered Xie's brain, causing him to become incomparably violent. However, although his tail was cut off, it had also reduced the power of that blade energy by quite a bit. Under the blade energy that could not be dodged, Xie used his body to forcefully resist this attack. A loud explosion rang out, and waves of energy swirled everywhere. The shell on Xie's body instantly shattered, directly sinking in, and fine cracks spread out. The roar was ear-splitting. Xie was in so much pain that he was enraged. Boom! The scorpion tail slightly pressed down, and Xie's body was like a spring that jumped high up. The roof of the imperial palace instantly exploded, and the golden bricks and red tiles all fell in all directions. In the air, Xiehe's scorpion eyes stared at Bufang. Bufang held the dragon bone kitchen knife in one hand and the black turtle constellation wok in the other, looking back without fear. In the next instant, Bufang looked at Xiehe, and the corner of his mouth rose. With a thought, a porcelain bottle filled with seasoning flew above the black turtle constellation wok. Then, the bottle exploded and the seasoning sprinkled down. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. A wave of fragrance spread out from the black turtle constellation wok. Slowly drifting, it filled the entire imperial palace. Xiehe was so angry that he wanted to roar. His lantern-like eyes surged with killing intent. He stood in the sky, letting out a cold voice. I will definitely kill you. You dare to use my demon scorpion race as an ingredient. You must die. Bufang looked at Xiehe and did not say anything. The dragon bone kitchen knife turned into green smoke and dissipated. Bufang's hands suddenly hugged the black turtle constellation wok. Then, the flames in the black turtle constellation wok dispersed. Bufang clapped his hands, and the black turtle constellation wok soared into the sky, flipping over. Rumble, rumble. For huge scorpions that were roasted until they were scarlet red and golden yellow smashed onto the ground. Steam rose, and a rich aroma surged. Xiehe was so angry that he went crazy. His scorpion legs kicked randomly in the air, then he turned around and dragged his broken body, intending to escape. However, Bufang did not plan to let him leave like this. Taking in a deep breath, the black and white Taotai souls on his arms roared, fiercely throwing out the steaming black turtle constellation wok. With a ripping sound, the black turtle constellation wok whizzed past, smashing towards Xiehe in the air. Chapter 861. Valley of Gluttony. Gluttony God City's long street snowflakes filled the sky, falling on the ground. The snow was the color of blood, piling up on the ground. It was a strange scene. The Saint Sovereign's death had not passed, and the entire world was still in sorrow. In the snowstorm, 3 figures were facing each other. Amethyst Elder's eyes were as sharp as knives, as though they could cut everything into pieces. His gaze was fixed on a handsome, sloppy figure in the distance. Beside that figure was his daughter, Saint Daughter Ziyun. As Saint Daughter Ziyun's father, Amethyst Elder could clearly see his daughter's feelings for that young man. Her heart was hanging on that person. A saint daughter of a holy land actually did such a disgraceful thing. It seemed like he had spoiled this little girl too much. Exhaling deeply, Amethyst Elder's eyes were still sharp. This was a netherworld creature. His daughter actually liked a netherworld creature. This was not allowed. Although he had accepted the conditions of the Demon Eye clan of the ruined prison and became half a netherworld creature, it was precisely because of this that Amethyst Elder would not allow his daughter to be together with a netherworld creature. No matter what, Amethyst Elder, had to stop it. So what if I'm a netherworld creature? Did I offend you? Hades Era was a little dissatisfied with Amethyst Elder's tone. Where did this fellow get the confidence to look down on netherworld creatures? The Hidden Dragon Continent was just a small place in the eyes of the netherworld creatures. The great netherworld was vast and boundless. How could the Hidden Dragon Continent compare to it? Moreover, Hades Era, was the lord of the netherworld. His pride toward the netherworld was not something that this purple-haired fellow could understand. Hades Era's words made the flames of anger in Amethyst Elder's heart rise continuously. Sizzle, on his arm, a wisp of black energy twirled. A jia. Laughter came from Amethyst Elder's arm, twirling around half of his body. Amethyst Elder raised his hand, and instantly an eye in his palm opened. The eye was filled with a mysterious light. Amethyst Elder, you lack courage. Why are you talking so much to this little fellow? If you're not satisfied with this fellow, just kill him. The demonic eye opened and closed, and a hoarse voice came out. Shut up. Amethyst Elder glared as he roared. Saint Daughter Ziyun was stunned. She looked at the scene in horror. The eruption of the black gas was beyond her expectations. She had never imagined that her father would have nether energy. Her father was a native of Hidden Dragon Country. Hades Era's eyes couldn't help but narrow as he looked at Amethyst Elder's arm. With just a glance, he saw through everything. The corner of his mouth twitched, revealing a disdainful smile. He shook his head. Get lost. Amethyst Elder was enraged. His purple hair seemed as though it was about to tear the sky apart. The fact that he had fused with the demon eye of the netherworld could not be exposed. Once it was exposed, he would be condemned by everyone. Didn't this demon eye know these key points? Fortunately, only his daughter and that brat were left on the long street. Looks like I just have to kill that brat. TSK, what should I say to you? You don't have the right to look down on the netherworld creatures. Hades Era said with a smile. A person who had fused with the demon eye of the netherworld was looking down on the netherworld creatures? Wasn't this a joke? Amethyst Elder. To achieve great things, you can't hesitate. Let this demon help you. As soon as the demon eye's words fell, Amethyst Elder felt his entire body shiver. Many demonic marks appeared on his palm, covering his entire body in just a blink of an eye. The divine light in Amethyst Elder's eyes dispersed. A moment later, what appeared was the look of the demon eye. Although this body is a little weak, it's not bad in the Hidden Dragon continent. Amethyst Elder grinned. A moment later, he lifted his head to look at Hades Era and Saint Daughter Ziyun. Ziyun felt as though her entire body had fallen into an ice cave. It was so cold that she couldn't move at all. This wasn't her father. That strange look, that strange aura, where's her father? Hades Era was watching with interest. All of a sudden, Amethyst Elder, whose entire body was covered with demonic marks, moved. His figure shot forward in an instant, raising a huge gust of wind. His terrifying aura caused the wind and snow in the entire world to freeze. A scarlet demon eye slowly appeared behind Amethyst Elder. When that demon eye opened, it seemed as though it could determine life and death. Let me help Amethyst Elder to complete what he wants to do. Swish! With a muffled sound, that demon eye opened. A beam of light shot toward Hades Era. That beam of light seemed to contain the aura of death. TSK. I was wondering why this aura was so familiar. So it's one of the 8 great demon kings of the ruined prison, the Death Demon King. Is this your death eye? Hades Era narrowed his eyes, smiling faintly. The entire sky turned blood red. However, Hades Era was still talking cheerfully and wittily. Amethyst Elder's ferocious face instantly froze. In the next instant, his eyes widened, as though he couldn't believe it. He didn't think that the guy in front of him could actually recognize him. All of a sudden, Amethyst Elder, whose body was covered with demonic marks, seemed to remember something. Facing that death eye, a terrifying phantom appeared behind Hades Era. It was a terrifying figure that seemed to be able to support both heaven and earth. The figure's eyes slowly opened. When the death eye approached, it instantly collapsed. A scream came from Amethyst Elder's mouth. In the next instant, Amethyst Elder's eyes were filled with fear. It's you. It's actually you. How could you possibly appear here? You can't possibly appear here. Buzz after Amethyst Elder screamed. The demonic marks on his body quickly retreated, as though he was frightened by something. The demonic marks retreated into his arm, and the demon eye closed. Amethyst Elder regained control of his body. Saint Daughter Ziyun gasped for breath, and her chest heaved up and down. However, seeing the recovered Amethyst Elder, Saint Daughter Ziyun heaved a sigh of relief. Her father had returned. Amethyst Elder's face was ashen. His body had actually been taken over by the consciousness of that demon eye. Damn it. Also, he lifted his head to look at Hades Era. This young man, what was his identity? With just one look, he had actually scared away the noble netherworld creature that had taken over his body. Amethyst Elder seemed to understand how terrifying Hades Era was. Boring. Seeing eye. He didn't even say anything and just ran away. He's just as cowardly as before. Hades' era was speechless, his mouth twitching. Amethyst Elder did not say anything more. He just gave Hades' era a deep look, then looked at his daughter. Then he turned around and left. With just one look, he had scared away the noble netherworld creature. What did he, Amethyst Elder, have to challenge the other party? Saint Daughters Iyun and Hades' era were dumbstruck as they looked at Amethyst Elder, who had turned around and left. They did not know what to say. Leaving the valley of gluttony, Amethyst Elder landed on a mountain peak. His forehead was full of sweat, which was caused by fear. He raised his hand, and his eyes opened wide, filled with fear. "What are you afraid of?" Amethyst Elder asked. "You don't understand? That person is terrifying. Don't provoke him. We're going to find the heavenly star catcher disc and destroy it." Luckily, the heavenly star catcher disc is not in the valley of gluttony anymore. Otherwise, the demon eye's hoarse voice was filled with lingering fear. It was as if he had seen an incomparably terrifying existence. Amethyst Elder did not really understand, but he was sure that that young man was absolutely incomparably terrifying. The heavenly star catcher disc's aura is in the south. It's very far, but we still have to go. Destroy the heavenly star catcher disc, and this demon will agree to all of your requests. The hoarse voice continued to ring, full of temptation as it spoke to Amethyst Elder. Amethyst Elder straightened his body on the mountain peak. Then, with a stomp of his foot, the entire mountain peak collapsed. His figure soared into the sky, and a spirit boat appeared under his feet. He tore through the void and left. His direction was the south of the hidden dragon continent. The black turtle constellation walk whistled, causing the air to rumble. The smell of roasted scorpions still lingered in the black turtle constellation walk. This smell made the demon scorpion chief Xie extremely angry. However, he did not dare to turn his head. He was afraid that if he turned his head, he would be left behind by Bufang. The whistling sound came closer and closer, and Xie, he felt a sense of danger. If he was hit by this walk, he would really be left behind. This human's power was only at the Divine Soul realm with a one-step soul ladder, but his equipment was too good. If it wasn't for those powerful equipment, a wok and a knife, Xie, he felt that he could crush that brat with a single hand. A long whistle rang out. Xie, he turned around. His two huge scorpion pincers instantly left his body, shooting out, smashing toward the black turtle constellation walk. The two huge scorpion pincers and the black turtle constellation walk collided. The incomparably tough scorpion pincers were instantly covered in cracks. With just one collision, the shell of his pincers was smashed into pieces. Enduring the heartache, Xie used the moment the scorpion pincers blocked the black turtle constellation walk to instantly escape far away, turning into a stream of light and disappearing. Bufang's mind flickered, and the black turtle constellation walk scooped up the two scorpion pincers and flew back. The imperial palace had already turned into a pile of ruins. The golden bricks and red tiles had rolled all over the ground, and the dragon throne had also collapsed. However, the imperial palace that had turned into ruins was filled with a dense fragrance. That was a unique meat fragrance. It was like the smell of something being roasted. The gazes of Ouyang Xiaoyi and the rest landed on the ground, where the huge scorpion was roasted until it was red. The danger had already been resolved. They couldn't help but approach the scorpion meat, drooling. Xiao Xiaolong's eyes suddenly lit up. Once again, he saw Onurbu cooking. It was still so confident and domineering. Although it was a hastily roasted scorpion, this smell, had to be said, it was very fragrant. Onurbu was Onurbu. In the distance, the demon chef, on Mo's legs, were trembling. The four great demon scorpion generals had actually turned into ingredients and were roasted by someone. This human was simply too daring. The ingredients had actually turned around and eaten the scorpion, and Yan's red lips parted, her saliva dripping down. The group of people walked in front of the huge roasted scorpion, all swallowing their saliva. Bufang clasped his hands, glancing at the demon chef, Mo, in the distance. The other party was also a chef, but he seemed to be a chef from the ruined prison. using human flesh as an ingredient. This kind of chef didn't need to exist anymore. Bufong expressionlessly flicked his finger, and a dark golden flame instantly shot out. The flame drilled into Mo's body, instantly turning into a raging inferno. In just a short while, that demon chef, Mo, was burned to ashes, and his resentful gaze also disappeared. After finishing everything, Bufong turned his head, realizing that the fragrance in the air was getting thicker and thicker. It was unknown when Yin had already cracked open the scorpion shell that was roasted red, revealing the white and tender scorpion meat inside. The billowing fragrance surged. Chapter 862. The giant scorpion sat in the imperial palace. Steam billowed, accompanied by a rich aroma, emitting from the scorpion. Yin was already drooling. She pursed her red lips, and her throat moved up and down. She walked to the front of the giant scorpion, and with a move of her mind, a long sword appeared. That long sword was jade white, and it was incomparably sparkling. There seemed to be a luster revolving around it. Without a doubt, this was a pretty good weapon. However, in Yin's hands, it was used as a tool to crack open the scorpion's shell. The long sword knocked on the scorpion's shell a few times. The scorpion's shell, which was supposed to be very hard, became much weaker after being roasted by Bufong. Crack! A crisp sound rang out. After being knocked by the long sword, it was instantly covered in fine cracks. A strand of oil seeped out from the fine cracks, flowing down the scorpion's shell. The rich aroma of meat caused everyone to involuntarily sink into it. And Yin's eyes lit up. She didn't care about anything else anymore. She reached out her hand and began to pull open the broken scorpion's shell. She didn't care if the scorpion's shell would burn her soft and white fingers. The scorpion's shell was pulled open, revealing the white and tender scorpion meat inside. Although the scorpion meat was white and tender, there was a trace of redness on its surface. It was as if the redness of the scorpion's shell had seeped into the scorpion's meat. Ouyang Xiaoyi and the others came over, their eyes bursting with a bright light. Everyone was a little salivating. The aroma was too fragrant. This was an ingredient made from a divine, soul realm demon scorpion. The aroma of the meat was enough to make people sink into it. It had been a long time since Ouyang Xiaoyi and the others smelled this kind of aroma. Ever since Bufong left the Light Wind Empire, they had lost a lot of freshness. Bufong walked over, looking at the drooling crowd. He raised his hand and threw a blue and white porcelain bowl to them. Bufong's system-dimensional bag was very well prepared. Because Bufong didn't know when he would be cooking, it was always good to have a bowl ready at any time. And Yin caught the bowl and the chopsticks that Bufong passed to her. With a bowl and chopsticks, as well as the plump and fragrant scorpion meat, what was there to be dissatisfied about? With a flick of her chopsticks, Yin headed toward the scorpion meat that had its shell cracked open. He picked up a piece of scorpion meat and placed it in a bowl. Dense steam rose from the porcelain bowl and drifted in spirals. Yin took a deep breath, and a rumbling sound came from her stomach. Woo! With a bite, the plump scorpion meat immediately entered his mouth. It was smooth but not greasy, oily but not greasy. The control of the scorpion meat was just right. The scorpion meat was roasted too well and did not affect the taste. After taking a bite, the meat juice overflowed in his mouth, bringing with it a faint salty taste. The original fishy smell was also eliminated by Bufong during the roasting process with herbs. Thus, what was left in his mouth was only the fragrance of meat, the ultimate fragrance of meat. Yin stuffed the rest of the scorpion meat into his mouth, his beautiful eyes widening. After eating this piece of meat, his originally tired spirit became much more awake. His powerless body was also filled with energy. It was too delicious. Yin smiled excitedly. That smile of hers was extremely charming. She continued to hold the chopsticks, moving them toward the scorpion meat in the scorpion shell. Piece by piece, she picked up the meat. She ate piece after piece. Bufong was also eating the scorpion meat, his brows slightly furrowed. This was his first time roasting this scorpion meat. Honestly speaking, it didn't meet Bufong's expectations. Bufong couldn't help but sigh. Just now, he was fighting and cooking at the same time, so it still affected him a little. Although it was delicious, there were still flaws. Ouyang Xiaoi and the others were also holding their bowls and chopsticks, eating. However, their cultivation was still relatively weak. The grade of this scorpion meat was too high. Just one bite, and they felt a kind of swelling feeling, as if the energy in their bodies was about to overflow. Thus, although they wanted to eat it, after one bite, they couldn't eat anymore. If they forced it down, they would probably explode from the energy contained in this scorpion meat. Naturally, they didn't want to explode. Thus, in the end, only Bufong and Yin were left eating. Bufong ate a few pieces of meat, then stopped eating. As for Yin, the more she ate, the more excited she became. He sat down on the ground with a smack on his butt. The scorpion meat was eaten at a speed visible to the naked eye. After eating one, there was still another. Yin, who was very happy, began to eat the second one, the third one, the fourth one. In the end, only the scorpion shell was left on the ground. There was also Yin, who was holding her stomach and smiling happily. This meal was very satisfying, and it allowed her body to gain a lot of strength. The power of the stars in her mind also seemed to have calmed down a lot, and Yin didn't feel very tired. "Do you still want to eat?" The corner of Bufong's mouth twitched. Looking at Yin, who had eaten all 4 scorpions that were more than 2 meters tall, he couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. This woman was really abnormal. Ouyang Xiaoi, Xiao Xiaolong, and the others also looked at Yin as if they were looking at a monster. Ouyang Xiaoi's mouth was even trembling. This was definitely not her beautiful and noble sister Yin. Her sister Yin couldn't eat so much. "It's okay. I'm a little full." Yin rubbed her slightly round belly, smiling as she said. Everyone was speechless. "If it's not enough, I still have 2 more scorpion pincers." Bufong looked at Yin and said, "Really? Scorpion pincers are the most delicious. Owner Bu's culinary skills are unrivaled." Yin was pleasantly surprised. She also took the opportunity to flatter Bufong. However, Bufong obviously didn't buy it. "In your dreams, are you a pig?" Bufong rolled his eyes at Yin and retrieved the porcelain bowls from the other's hands. Everyone stood on the spot, feeling a little unsatisfied. "Let's go to the dungeon to save people. Aren't there still a lot of people in prison there?" Bufong asked. Xiao Xiaolong, Ouyang Xiaoi, and the others suddenly came to a realization. That's right. Their relatives were still imprisoned in the dungeon. There were still many spirit beasts in the dungeon. Just now, they were so engrossed in eating that they actually forgot such an important matter. Then, under Ouyang Xiaoi's lead, everyone walked toward the dungeon. This dungeon was dug out by the Light Wind Empire's emperor in the early years. It was specially used to imprison prisoners. Passing through the imperial palace's courtyard, they came to a side door. After entering the side door and walking a long path filled with red walls, they arrived at the entrance of the dungeon. The great battle in the imperial palace didn't seem to affect this place at all. The ones guarding the big boss were still those powerful demon scorpion race experts. When these experts saw Bufong's group, their eyes instantly shrank. They issued a solemn warning, forbidding them to continue approaching and moving forward. Bufong clasped his hands behind his back. He didn't care about these demon scorpion experts' orders in the slightest. He strode forward, his mental energy surging out. Around his body, a dark gold fire dragon appeared. The fire dragon roared, floating and entrenched as Bufong walked. With a flick of his finger, it flew toward the crazily roaring demon scorpion experts. After those experts' bodies came into contact with the heaven and earth obsidian flame, they were instantly burned into ashes. They couldn't stop the footsteps of Bufong's group at all. The people of the Light Wind Empire in the dungeon were instantly rescued. After losing the demon scorpion race's leader, Xiehe, the remaining demon scorpion race experts weren't a threat at all. Very quickly, they either escaped or died. Those who didn't escape and wanted to counterattack and kill Bufong were all burned into ashes by Bufang's heaven and earth obsidian flame. Today, Bufang's control of flames was getting better and better. The dungeon was full. Basically, the people of the Light Wind Empire who survived were all captured in the dungeon. Originally, Xie had planned to use these humans as long-term food. However, it was a pity that Bufang's appearance disrupted his plans. After he escaped, he allowed these people to survive. The people of the Light Wind Empire were originally in despair. However, no one would have thought that there would be a day where they could see the light of day again. These people walked out of the dungeon with tears streaming down their faces. They directly knelt on the ground, spread their hands, and kowtowed to the heavens. They were grateful to their fate, grateful to Bufang. Ji Qingxue had aged a lot, and his beard was unkempt. He once again saw Bufang. In an instant, all sorts of feelings welled up in his heart. Ji Qingxue had thought that his Light Wind Empire was about to be destroyed. However, he never would have thought that Bufang, who had left the imperial capital far away, would actually return, chase away those demons, and save them. Ji Qingxue really didn't know what to say to Bufang, so he could only give him a deep bow. Bufang didn't mind. He only did what he could to help. After all, the Light Wind Empire was the place he stayed the longest in after coming to the Hidden Dragon continent. He naturally had deep feelings for this place. Lending a helping hand in times of crisis was also normal. After that, Ji Qingxue returned to his own imperial palace. Looking at the palace that was in a mess, he couldn't help but bitterly smile. The people who survived began their work of restoring their homes. Bufang brought Yin back to Fang's little store. Because he had just escaped, he still had many things to say to his family, so he didn't immediately go to the restaurant. When Yin returned to the restaurant, she naturally went to Bufang's room and slept soundly. After eating 4 demon scorpions, Yin still felt tired. After a while, she fell into a deep sleep. Bufang had no choice but to go to the kitchen to practice cooking. At the same time, he also made some special dishes to form the gourmet array. Although he had left the Light Wind Empire for a long time, looking at the Light Wind Empire that was almost destroyed, Bufang still felt that he had to do something. With his current strength, the gourmet array he made was enough to increase the Light Wind Empire's defense countless times. Moreover, the area covered by the gourmet array increased, so the Light Wind Empire could be expanded. Bufang also cooked a lot of delicacies and assembled them into the gourmet array, which he stored in the system's dimensional storage. After all, the gourmet array could greatly increase Bufang's battle prowess. In the sky, a stream of light tore through the sky. With a rumble, it ruthlessly hit a mountain peak. That mountain peak directly collapsed from the impact. Among the crushed rocks, a figure slowly walked out. It was the demon scorpion race's leader, Xie, who had lost both of his arms. Xie's face was filled with resentment. Dense nether energy circulated around his body as he stared in the direction of the Light Wind Empire, gritting his teeth. Damn stinky chef. Wait for this leader to return. I will definitely tear you into pieces. I will swallow your flesh piece by piece. Turning his body, Xie turned into a stream of light and continued to dash forward. The direction he was dashing toward was the 100,000 mountains. Once he reached the 100,000 mountains, he could use the transportation gate to ask for help from the demon scorpion race's heavenly ethereal realm expert. As long as the demon scorpion race's heavenly ethereal realm expert descended, that stinky chef must die. Chapter 863. Xie's speed was very fast. Although he didn't have his arms, his speed became even faster. When the sky had just turned bright, a ray of light shot over from afar. Xie had already reached the 100,000 mountains, landing at the entrance of the 100,000 mountains. Looking from afar, the 100,000 mountains was covered in a layer of twisted nether energy. The monstrous nether energy was like a ferocious claw, letting out a soundless roar. Xie's eyes revealed a trace of respect. He knew that within the 100,000 mountains, there was an extremely powerful existence. Thinking about his 4 generals that were roasted red, and thinking about the pair of pincers that he had no choice but to give up, he felt his heart dripping blood. His rage was also burning fiercely, and his resentment towards Bufang had also reached the peak. Originally, he could have been a local tyrant in the Light Wind Empire, but because of the sudden appearance of this fellow, he had to escape from the Light Wind Empire. This time, he must ask the experts of his race to take revenge for him. Stepping into the 100,000 mountains, the nether energy within the mountains surged, rolling and boiling. A mountain peak stood majestically. On top of that mountain peak, there was a meandering tree that covered the sky. Those dense leaves seemed to be covering everything. The branches curled up, forming a circle. Within that circle, nether energy continuously boiled and surged. Within that nether energy, there would be experts of the ruined prison walking out from time to time. This was the mandala tree's transportation gate, the gate that allowed them to reach this world. Xiehe's eyes revealed a fanatical expression. On that thick tree trunk, there were experts sitting cross-legged, closing their eyes to rest. These experts were the great ethereal realm existences from the ruined prison. Their auras were extremely terrifying. They sat cross-legged on the tree trunk, borrowing the aura emitted by the mandala tree to cultivate. Suddenly, a heavenly illusory realm expert opened his eyes. The gaze from those eyes seemed to be able to tear the void apart, causing Xiehe's heart to tremble. Xiehe hurriedly lowered his head in shame. That was the great ethereal realm expert of their demon scorpion race. Xiehe felt wronged in his heart as he narrated everything that had happened to him. The great ethereal realm expert of the demon scorpion race didn't have the slightest bit of sympathy for Xiehe, who had lost both his arms. The portal teleported you here to do business, not for you to enjoy yourself. You have only yourself to blame for this. Xiehe was taught a lesson, but he didn't even dare to breathe loudly. Even though he felt wronged, he didn't dare to speak. The position of a great ethereal realm expert in the demon scorpion race was considered noble. At least, it was much more noble than Xiehe. Xiehe, was only half a step into the great emptiness realm and had not even reached the true great emptiness realm. Facing a heavenly emptiness realm expert, he naturally had the respect that he should have. Do you know that our ruined prison wants to attack the hidden dragon continent? This is such a backward and remote place. Why is there a need to muster so many people? The heavenly ethereal realm expert asked. Xiehe's body trembled. How could he know such a secret? He only knew that he had to complete the task that was arranged according to the orders. The heavenly ethereal realm expert stood up from the mandala tree, clasping his hands behind his back as he gazed into the distance. There's no harm in telling you. If you can find it, it will be considered a great merit. The goal of us invading the hidden dragon continent is to find the remains of the previous, strongest demon king of the ruined prison, the heavenly ethereal realm expert faintly said. Hearing that, Xiehe's entire body shook. The remains of the strongest demon king? It sounded really awesome. The current ruined prison had 8 great demon kings, but a long time ago, the ruined prison had 9 great demon kings. The extra demon king was the strongest demon king of the ruined prison. His combat power and cultivation base were the strongest. However, this demon king had fallen a long time ago. And from all kinds of information, it seemed that the strongest demon king had fallen in the hidden dragon continent. Out of the 8 great demon kings of the ruined prison, 4 agreed with this point of view, which was why they advocated attacking the hidden dragon continent. As for the remaining 4 demon kings, they remained neutral. This also led to the current situation. Even though the place we are at is the remote southern region, but there's a high possibility that the demon king's remains are here. If you lazy fellows make a mistake, then even 10,000 deaths will not be enough to absolve you. The heavenly ethereal realm expert said a lot, and he only listened obediently. In the end, the heavenly ethereal realm expert still sent a great ethereal realm expert to the Light Wind Empire. Even though the Light Wind Empire was not very important, he was still a member of the demon scorpion race. After suffering such humiliation in the backward southern region, he naturally had to get it back. The second day, the wind and snow were still drifting in the sky. Xiao Xiaolong returned to the restaurant and continued to cook. The restaurant also resumed its business. After not seeing him for a long time, Xiao Xiaolong's culinary skills had improved a lot. He could actually withstand Bu Fang's inspection, which made Bu Fang a little surprised. Regarding this, Xiao Xiaolong was very proud. After all, being able to shock Bu Fang in culinary skills meant that his improvement was not small. However, after Bu Fang demonstrated a few moves, Xiao Xiaolong felt the difference. When Bu Fang's dishes were cooked, the aroma was incomparably dense. After smelling it, his entire mood seemed to become joyful. Whether it was the technique, the knife skills, or the control of the fire, Xiao Xiaolong felt that Bu Fang was like a towering mountain. He still had a long way to go. The wind and snow blew, bringing a cold air into the little restaurant. Bu Fang pulled a chair and sat in front of the restaurant. Curling up on the chair, he quietly watched the wind and snow that filled the sky. It was quite a different feeling. Ouyang Xiaoi was very lively. As a waitress, she was much more professional than that lazy fellow Chu Changsheng. Xiao Xiaolong cooked, while Ouyang Xiaoi was in charge of serving and ordering. The division of labor was orderly, which made Bu Fang quite satisfied. However, today, Bu Fang did not come back to Fang Fang's little store to watch the flowers bloom and wilt. He needed to help Yin recover her memory and control the heavenly star catcher disc. In this way, Bu Fang could be considered to have completed his temporary task. Only then could Yin use the heavenly star catcher disc to help him brew wine. Brewing a jar of good wine was indeed a little troublesome. Whether it was the choice of ingredients or the brewing method, they all took up a lot of Bu Fang's time and energy. Because of this, Bu Fang was more interested in the acheron of helplessness wine. He couldn't wait to brew the acheron of helplessness. Thus, after Bu Fang rested, he pulled up Yin, who was sleeping soundly in the room, and started the journey to recover her memory. This time, Bu Fang and Yin needed to go to the place where Yin had stayed for a long time, the Celestial Arcanum Sect. Yin did not want to go to the Celestial Arcanum Sect. At this moment, she only wanted to sleep. She needed a lot of sleep to ensure that the star energy in her body would not explode. She was pulled up by Bu Fang, and they stepped onto the spirit boat. With the spirit boat, it was very convenient to go to the Celestial Arcanum Sect. As the saintess of the heavenly secret holy land, Yin naturally had many good things on her. The spirit boat was the most popular transportation equipment in the Hidden Dragon continent, so she naturally had many. Moreover, Yin's spirit boat was made of the best materials, and its speed was extremely fast. It whistled through the air as though it was pulling a thin line. The two of them sat on the spirit boat, leaving the light wind empire and heading to the Celestial Arcanum Sect. Boom! Boom! In the sky above the 100,000 mountains, dark clouds covered the sky, giving off a loud roar. It was as though there was lightning flashing within. In the next instant, a spirit boat tore through the void and appeared, floating in the sky. Amethyst Elder sat cross-legged on the spirit boat. His purple hair was like long swords, stabbing into the void. It was as though he wanted to poke a hole in the void. Standing up from his spirit boat, Amethyst Elder's body was filled with terrifying energy. With his hands clasped behind his back, he stepped out of the spirit boat and soared into the sky. The southern region is really a barren land. Why would the owner of the heavenly star catcher disc come to such a barren land? Amethyst Elder felt the thin spiritual energy in the air. He could not help but furrow his brows in doubt. The spiritual energy in the Valley of Gluttony was so abundant, but the owner did not choose to stay in the Valley of Gluttony. Instead, he came to the barren and backward southern region. For tens of thousands of years, the southern region had always been a relatively barren and backward place in the Hidden Dragon continent. However, even in a barren place, it was still possible for a few talented individuals to appear. They were able to step into the true divine physique echelon in this barren place. In the hidden dragon royal court, those in the divine physique echelon were like cabbages. However, in the southern region, there was not a single divine physique expert in 10,000 years. This was also strange. According to the ancient records, the southern region of tens of thousands of years ago was different from the current southern region. At that time, the southern region was rich in spiritual energy, and there were many geniuses. Unfortunately, no one knew when the southern region had declined. Of course, the reason why Amethyst Elder came here today was not to investigate these strange things. His target was the owner of the heavenly star catcher disc. He did not need to spend so much effort to investigate. The southern region definitely had secrets, but Amethyst Elder was not interested in these secrets. Within the 100,000 mountains, on the mandala tree, the great ethereal realm experts of the ruined prison suddenly opened their eyes. They raised their heads, and a divine light shot out from their eyes. It tore through the sky as they stared at Amethyst Elder. Amethyst Elder's aura was too intense, like a scorching sun. It was hard not to attract their attention. Boom, boom, boom. The auras of several great ethereal realm experts burst out at the same time, turning into pillars of energy that soared into the sky, surrounding Amethyst Elder. Amethyst Elder narrowed his eyes. He could not help but feel a little surprised. The ruined prison actually sent so many great ethereal realm experts to the southern region. What was the meaning of this? Amethyst Elder's heart was filled with doubt. However, this doubt did not last for long. He raised his hand, and the closed eye on his palm suddenly opened. A wave of nether energy wrapped around his arm, and a strange aura spread out. The great ethereal realm experts on the mandala tree were instantly shocked. Feeling the aura of this demon eye, they quickly dispersed their auras, no longer paying attention to Amethyst Elder. Amethyst Elder's body actually had the aura of a demon king. This caused many great ethereal realm experts to not dare to offend him. Amethyst Elder deeply looked through the pitch-black clouds, looking at the giant mandala tree. Taking a deep breath, he stepped on the air. With one step, his figure shot out hundreds of miles, heading in the direction of the heavenly star catcher disk's aura. Illusory spirit swamped near the coast of the endless sea. Sky-shaking waves suddenly surged. Those waves moved forward at an extremely fast speed. If one looked closely, they would all suck in a breath of cold air. That was because on top of those waves, there were many creatures with different appearances. Among them, the leader was a giant golden prawn. These creatures walked on the waves, charging toward the illusory spirit swamp. In the sky above the illusory spirit swamp, a spirit boat cut through the sky, then suddenly stopped. Chapter 864. The spirit boat streaked across the sky, and when it passed by the illusory spirit swamp, it stopped. Bufong stood on the spirit boat, poking his head out to look at the boundless spirit swamp. His eyes couldn't help but reveal a trace of nostalgia. This seemed to be the Serpent Men tribe. His other apprentice, the Serpent Man Yufu, stayed in the Serpent Men city. On the way to the Celestial Arcanum sect, they had to pass by the illusory spirit swamp. Thus, Bufong could go to the Serpent Men tribe and meet his other apprentice. In truth, if they weren't in Fong Fong's little store, Bufong didn't have much hope for Yufu's culinary skills to improve. After all, it wasn't easy to improve one's culinary skills. Although he had taught him most of what he could in Fong Fong's little store, he still had to rely on his own practice. Yufu seemed to be the next Serpentine sovereign, so she must be very busy every day. It wouldn't be easy for her to improve her culinary skills. The spirit boat landed, bringing along a wave of air as it floated not far above the illusory spirit swamp. Inside the spirit boat, an Ayan was lying on her side, snoring loudly. As time passed, this woman's sleeping time was getting longer and longer, which wasn't good news. The longer she slept, the more time Ayan spent suppressing the power of the stars in her mind. Who knew when this woman would fall asleep and never wake up? However, it shouldn't be a problem for the time being. After all, every time an Ai Yin woke up, she would have a big meal. Bufang would also choose to cook large spirit beasts to fill an Ai Yin's stomach. Every time after eating, an Ai Yin would become more energetic. Stepping on the soft swamp ground, he felt that the swamp ground was somewhat warm and a faint wave of heat was emitted from it, making people feel quite comfortable. Perhaps it was because of the terrain. The heaven and earth spirit energy here was denser than the light wind empire. The spirit energy in the light wind empire was really too weak, ridiculously weak. In other words, the spirit energy in the entire southern region was especially weak. As Bufang walked, he saw the Serpent Men tribe in the distance. Compared to the light wind empire, this place seemed to be a lot more stable. Compared to the tragic invasion of the Light Wind Empire by the Demon Scorpion race, this place was really too safe. Perhaps it was because the Serpent Men tribe had more experts. Of course, it could also be because the Demon Scorpion tribe did not have too many experts in the illusory spirit swamp. The current Serpent Men tribe's defense was much stronger than before. At the very least, the ferocious-looking fence in front of the door hid the prosperity in the depths of the interior. Perhaps because Bufang and an Ai Yin could tell at a glance that they were humans, they were allowed into the Serpent Men tribe without much interrogation. The Serpent Men tribe was very lively. Compared to the previous barren land, it was much more prosperous. Weapons were laid out on both sides of the streets. Compared to weapon shops, restaurants were the most popular. The Naga tribe's restaurant was not luxuriously decorated. Instead, it was a shabby house with many tables and chairs. Bufang and Ai Yin entered a restaurant. They ordered a few dishes out of curiosity and took a break. Of course, Bufang would not choose to drink the wine of this shabby restaurant. Bufang had better wine. Opening the lid of the wine jar, the fragrance of the wine that wafted out made many serpent men in the restaurant salivate. Too fragrant. This wine fragrance was really too fragrant. However, no matter how fragrant it was, they could not drink this wine because Bufang would not give it to them. This was the Frost Blaze Path Understanding Brew, a very precious jar of wine. After drinking 2 cups with an Ai Yin, Bufang carefully put away the Frost Blaze Path Understanding Brew. The wine fragrance that had enveloped the entire restaurant also disappeared. The surrounding diners all felt a little regretful. Someone wanted to come over and ask about Bufang's wine. However, after seeing Bufang's expressionless face, he gave up on this idea. The dishes were served, and the aroma was not bad. However, they naturally could not be compared to the dishes cooked by Bufang. The first dish that was served made Bufang a little surprised. Because this dish, Bufang had cooked it before. It was the roasted fish he had cooked in the Serpent Men tribe. He had used the special fat fish of the tribe to roast the fish. Although the process was different and the cooking method was rough, Bufang could still recognize that it was a roasted fish. Regarding this, Bufang was a little surprised. Back then, he had cooked the roasted fish unintentionally. He did not expect that these serpent men would learn it. These serpent men were really talented. Judging from the popularity of food in the Serpent Men tribe, it was much better than when he had first come to the tribe. Bufang used his chopsticks and began to taste the roasted fish. The chopsticks peeled off the fish skin, revealing the white and tender flesh inside. This fat fish's flesh was especially good, and its texture was excellent. Back then, Bufang had liked this fat fish, so he had cooked it. Picking up a piece of fish and putting it in his mouth, Bufang furrowed his brows. Then his brows relaxed. After taking a bite, he put down his chopsticks. With Bufang's current cooking skills, he was extremely picky about food. This roasted fish was really good, which could be seen from the popularity of the restaurant. However, in Bufang's restaurant, it was not good enough. However, the control of the fire and the combination of ingredients were much worse. Bufang did not have high expectations. After all, the other party had learned how to cook from him. It was normal that there were some flaws that the other party had not learned. Thus, Bufang did not eat the fish. Instead, he sipped the wine. And Ai Yin was good at eating. Basically, she did not refuse anyone. With her current appetite, She could eat until the sky was the sky. Bufong did not expect that after fusing with the heavenly starcatcher disk, he would become a super glutton. Was it because the heavenly star catcher disk was also a glutton? It was hard to say. Did you guys hear? The Light Wind Empire has been completely conquered by those demons. Oh my God, the people of the Light Wind Empire have been eaten alive by those demons. Recently, the world has not been peaceful. Fortunately, our new Serpentine sovereign is wise. She united the Serpent Men tribe to fight against the demons. The demons' invasion was resolved several times. You don't say. Her Majesty is really wise. However, besides the demons' invasion, many strange things have happened. Do you know about the big crystal mine that is 300 miles away? The crystal mine that was discovered and mined has collapsed again. A big hole with a diameter of dozens of miles has appeared. Many of our tribe's experts have died. The restaurant was very lively. Many serpent men were eating and chatting. Bufong's mental energy was very strong. He could hear all the information around him. The thing that piqued Bufong's interest the most was the collapse of the crystal mine. Bufong knew about the crystal mine because the crystal source purple essence was still in his system's dimensional bag. There wasn't anything special about that big crystal mine back then. Why would it collapse again now? Oh, there was something magical about it. It was just that the crystal source had given him a weirdo, Xiaopi. Apart from that, there was nothing special about it. Then, why did it collapse again? The serpent men chatted for a long time. However, none of them told them why the mine collapsed and what was underneath it. As such, Bufong did not waste any more time. And Yin had finished the entire grilled fish. She was now gnawing on the fish bones, looking like a hungry ghost that had been reincarnated. Bufong glanced at the woman, then pulled her out of the restaurant. They headed straight toward the Grand Serpent Men City. Bufong held Yin's hand and leisurely strolled in the park. He released his mental energy, and no one could obstruct his steps. The city was much more prosperous than before. There were also many restaurants, which surprised Bufong. After Bufong gave his name, he went to the Serpent Men's Imperial Palace. No one stopped him. Yu Fu, the current Serpentine sovereign, ordered her subordinates to let him pass when she heard Bufong's name. Thus, Bufong easily entered the main hall. As soon as he entered the main hall, everyone's gaze fell on him. They were the Serpent Men elders' gazes. Some of them were scrutinizing him, while others were solemn. However, there was one person whose gaze was burning with passion. It belonged to the Serpentine sovereign, Yu Fu. Yu Fu was very happy. Her face was full of smiles. She swayed her serpent tail and flew down from her seat. She arrived in front of Bufong. Bufong clasped his hands behind his back and looked at Yu Fu. The once young and inexperienced serpent man girl had now become the Serpentine sovereign. She looked incomparably majestic, which was a little different from a Yu Fu in his memory. Yu Fu and Bufong chatted for a long time. It seemed that it had been a long time since she saw Bufong. Yu Fu was very talkative, chattering nonstop. She talked about her persistence in cooking after Bufong left. Although she was an empress, she still spent a lot of time on cooking. She loved cooking, and she had promised Bufong that she would not give up cooking. Yu Fu's persistence surprised Bufong a little. Then his gaze softened. This Serpent Man girl's character hadn't changed. Next, Bufong observed Yu Fu's cooking skills. Yu Fu excitedly cooked many dishes. These dishes were taught by Bufong, and some were self-taught. Among them was the roasted fish, which she had secretly learned from Bufong. Yu Fu was amazed by this dish, so she spent a lot of time to study it. This dish was popularized in the entire Grand Serpentine city. Compared to the roasted fish in the restaurant, Yu Fu's roasted fish was much more exquisite and delicious. At least, her control over the heat and the temperature of the oil was much better. Moreover, the combination of the ingredients was also very meticulous. The taste was not bad. Bufong nodded his head in satisfaction. And Yin, on the other hand, had the opportunity to eat a big meal. The whole fish fell into her stomach. After chatting for a while, Bufong suddenly remembered that he had inquired about the big crystal mine in the restaurant, so he casually asked about it. He didn't expect that the atmosphere in the Serpent Men tribe would change when he asked this question. Owner you don't know this, but the big crystal mine has become a taboo topic in our tribe. Because of that mine, at least 2 supreme beings of our grand serpentine city have fallen. Yufu's complexion was heavy, and she sighed. 2 supreme beings. Bufong's brows twitched, and his heart became more and more curious. It's pitch black, bottomless, and most importantly, when you get close, there is actually a fragrance of food. Yufu frowned as she described the smell to Bufong. Bufong was taken aback, and his face was filled with confusion. There was a fragrance of food in the big crystal mine? How is this possible? Could it be that someone was cooking in the big crystal mine? Yufu seemed to have seen through Bufong's doubts. She took a deep breath and said, "There is indeed a fragrance of food. Moreover, it can only be found in the area of the big crystal mine. When you walk out of the area, you can't smell any fragrance at all. That fragrance of food is poisonous. It can stir up one's mind. I once personally approached the big crystal mine, and when I smelled the fragrance, I sank into it for 3 days and 3 nights. I couldn't eat or drink, and I felt like I had lost my soul." Bufong furrowed his brows. Was this really the fragrance of food? What kind of fragrance could reach such a level? Bufong knew that even with his current cooking skills, he wouldn't be able to cook such a dish. Involuntarily, the corners of Bufong's mouth curled up. The fragrance of food in the big crystal mine. He really wanted to experience it. Just as everyone was chatting, suddenly, outside the main hall, a serpent man rushed in a panic, and he even let out a frightened shout. "Your Highness, not good. The endless sea's oceanic species is heading toward the big crystal mine." Chapter 865. Your Majesty, this is bad. The oceanic species has launched a large-scale invasion. They are heading toward the deep pit of the big crystal mine. This was a 7th grade battle saint. At this moment, this battle saint's face was filled with panic. His panic seemed to have affected everyone in the palace. Everyone's faces were also filled with panic. To the Serpent Men tribe, the invasion of the oceanic species was even more terrifying than the invasion of the so-called demons. This was because every time the oceanic species invaded, it was a huge disaster for the Serpent Men tribe. Yufu's face also revealed a trace of disbelief. Why would the oceanic species invade again? Ever since the Serpentine sovereign entered the endless sea, the oceanic species has been peaceful for a long time. Why would they invade our Serpent Men tribe this time? However, even though Yufu felt that it was inconceivable, she wasn't too panicked. With the help of the crystals that were continuously excavated from the big crystal mine, the Serpent Men tribe had nurtured several supreme beings. They were more than enough to deal with this catastrophe. Yufu calmed down. However, after calming down, she felt that something was wrong. "Wait, what did you say the oceanic species invaders were doing?" Yufu seemed to have thought of something. She looked at the 7th grade battle saint and asked. That expert was taken aback at first. Then he opened his mouth and said, "Those oceanic species are heading toward the big crystal mine that just collapsed." Big crystal mine? Another big crystal mine? Many people were taken aback. In the next moment, they sucked in a breath of cold air. The previous invasion of the oceanic species seemed to be related to the big crystal mine. Now it was happening again. What exactly was inside the big crystal mine that attracted the oceanic species experts? Bufong was also taken aback. During the previous invasion of the oceanic species, Bufong was also present. At that time, Bufong extracted Xiaopi from the crystal source of the big crystal mine. Now, the oceanic species were invading again. What was going on? One had to know that Xiaopi, as the shrimp ancestor, had already been extracted from the crystal source. This meant that the oceanic species would not come for the shrimp ancestor of the big crystal mine. If that was the case, then their objective was somewhat interesting. Bufong rubbed his chin and pondered for a while. Because of this matter, Yufu was no longer in the mood to reminisce with Bufong. Instead, she sent someone to bring Bufong to the room that had been arranged for him to rest. Yufu, on the other hand, followed many experts to the collapsed big crystal mine. This Yuan crystal mine was simply too sinister. Their Serpent Men tribe had lost 2 Supreme Being experts in there. Supreme Being experts were the peak strength of the Serpent Men tribe. Every one of them was extremely precious. The death of 2 of them at once was a heavy blow to the Naga tribe. As he watched Yu Fu leave, Bu Feng's eyes flickered. The one who led Bu Feng to his residence was a pretty serpent woman. She swayed her serpentine tail as she led Bu Feng to the room that had been arranged for him. If young master has any instructions, you can call this servant. The serpent woman slightly bowed to Bu Feng, then left the room. Yin began to feel drowsy again. As soon as she entered the room, she closed her eyes and moved toward the bed. Bu Feng glanced at her and furrowed his brows. Looking at Yin, who was soon snoring, he stood up. Bu Feng was really curious about the collapsed big crystal mine. No, it should be said that Bu Feng was curious about the aroma of food coming from the collapsed big crystal mine. A big crystal mine could actually emit the aroma of food? There was no chef cooking inside, and the aroma of the food could even entice one's mind. Could it be that the food had become a spirit? The curious Bu Feng naturally wanted to go and take a look. What if there was really a peerless delicacy in the big crystal mine? When he opened the door, the serpent woman servant outside was instantly taken aback. "Take good care of the one sleeping inside," Bu Feng said to the serpent woman's servant. The servant hurriedly nodded and looked at Bu Feng's figure with a puzzled expression. Bu Feng's speed was really fast. His body slowly soared into the sky. The vermilion robe fluttered on his body, constantly making rustling noises. Bu Feng easily found the location of the big crystal mine. However, after looking at it, Bu Feng was somewhat bewildered. In the distance, monstrous waves were rolling over. The waves were tumbling, and there was a clamor on them. Countless sea spirit beasts were waving their weapons in the waves. What caught Bu Feng's attention the most was the leader of the oceanic species experts. It was actually a dazzling gold. Shrimpy, what was going on? Was that fellow Xiaopi? Bu Feng was bewildered. Then, he carefully looked over. Compared to Xiaopi's petite body, this gold Shrimpy was much bigger and more violent. The aura on its body was very obvious. Although it was dazzling gold, its carapace was covered with fine patterns. It was a gold Shrimpy at the almighty realm. However, it wasn't a purebred Shrimpy like Xiaopi. Could it be a relative of Xiaopi? Of course, besides the gold Shrimpy that attracted Bu Feng's attention, the most eye-catching thing was the huge pit that was situated 300 miles away from the Serpent Men tribe. That huge pit lay across the illusory spirit swamp. It was like a bottomless abyss, and it emitted endless mysteries. With so many oceanic species experts coming over, the waves they stirred up were surging and surging. Once the waves crashed down, it seemed as though they were going to drown the surroundings. Under the protection of many experts from the Serpent Men tribe, Yu Fu arrived several miles away from the collapsed pit. From here, she could see the shocking pit. She could also see the towering waves and thousands of members of the oceanic species behind it. This was an absolute disaster. All of the experts from the Serpent Men tribe were dumbfounded. The terrifying pressure that permeated the air caused everyone to be unable to move a single muscle. They had never felt such a feeling before. Facing the oceanic species experts, the supreme beings of the Serpent Men tribe didn't even dare to breathe loudly. They didn't even have the courage to soar into the sky. These supreme beings were clear that once they soared into the sky, they would die. The gold Shrimpy in the lead was too terrifying. It was like a demon that had crawled out of the endless sea. Bu Feng stood proudly in the sky with his brows furrowed. If the oceanic species experts invaded, the Serpent Men tribe wouldn't be able to withstand such an attack. Just the towering waves alone were enough to destroy the entire Grand Serpent Men city. However, were the oceanic species experts really targeting the Grand Serpent Men city? Clearly it wasn't. Boom, boom. The huge waves suddenly crashed down, smashing towards a huge, pitch-black hole without stopping. With a loud explosion, endless seawater poured into the pitch-black pit like a waterfall. The oceanic species experts disdainfully glanced at the petrified experts of the serpentmen tribe. Then, they rushed into the deep pit along with the waterfall, along with excited roars. Boom! Boom! The sound was ear-splitting like thunder, ringing in everyone's ears. The experts of the serpentmen tribe were somewhat dumbfounded. This scene was simply too shocking. Was this the power of a true expert? The experts of the serpentmen tribe couldn't see through the cultivation of the oceanic species experts. However, they knew that the realm above Supreme Being was the divine realm. Without a doubt, these oceanic species experts were divine realm existences. The entire southern region might not even have a single divine realm expert. However, this time, there were so many divine realm experts. The endless sea was vast, and the number of experts there was also endless. It wasn't strange for there to be divine realm experts. In the past, the oceanic species invasions weren't very strong. After all, their sea was very weak. However, today's experts completely changed the views of the experts of the serpentmen tribe. If the oceanic species wanted to annihilate the serpentmen tribe, it would be a piece of cake. What was the goal of these oceanic species? What was so special about the crystal mine that attracted the oceanic species experts? Buffon's gaze was solid as he looked over. He could see the intoxicated expressions on the faces of the oceanic species experts who had entered the origin crystal pit. They seemed to be enchanted by some kind of aroma. According to Yu Fu, these sea race experts must have been mesmerized by the fragrance of the dishes wafting out from the crystal mine. Was there really a fragrance? Buffon clasped his hands behind his back. His face was expressionless, but his heart was filled with curiosity. He asked the system, but the system didn't reply to him. This made Buffon even more curious. It was something that could make the divine realm experts of the oceanic species experts feel greedy. The experts of the serpentmen tribe also wanted to see it. However, that deep pit was too terrifying. They didn't dare to go down. Swoosh! All the seawater entered the deep pit, and the commotion came to an end. Around the pit, there were only a few soldiers of the oceanic species guarding with weapons in their hands. It was as if they were forbidding others from entering. In the distance, a rumbling sound rang out. Roars reached the sky, and nether energy filled the air. Above the illusory spirit swamp, the ruined prison's experts rode on the waves. The experts of the serpentmen tribe sucked in a breath of cold air once again. Why were there so many demons? What was going on? When so many demons appeared, the experts of the serpentmen tribe panicked. They thought that this was a plot of the demons, and they wanted to seize this chance to attack their tribe. However, soon, the experts of the serpentmen tribe were stunned again, because they realized that the demons' target wasn't them. Like the oceanic species experts, it was the deep pit in the crystal mine. The experts of the ruined prison charged towards the deep pit, bringing with them a sky-high amount of nether energy. The oceanic species experts roared, wanting to stop the ruined prison's experts. However, the number of ruined prison's experts was too many. They broke through the blockade of the oceanic species experts and jumped into the deep pit. These demons were the experts of the demon scorpion race. Buffon had cooked the 4 great generals of the demon scorpion race. Of course, he recognized them. All the experts of the ruined prison in the southern region were from the demon scorpion race. That deep pit was like a bottomless pit, sucking in countless oceanic species experts and the ruined prison's experts. All the experts of the serpentmen tribe were dumbstruck. Had this big crystal mine become a bottomless pit? All of a sudden, an expert of the serpentmen tribe couldn't help but be curious. He wanted to step into the deep pit, but he was forced back by an oceanic species expert at Supremacy Realm. Get lost! His roar made the serpentmen tribe's experts face change between green and red. However, he sighed helplessly, retreating. Oceanic species. Demon scorpion race. What attracted them in this big crystal mine? It can emit the aroma of dishes. It's really mysterious. Buffon's eyes brightened. A moment later, the long robe on his body fluttered. He took a step forward, slowly treading on the void as he headed toward the deep pit. Some experts of the Serpent Men tribe saw Bufong. Instantly, their eyes shrank. They recognized Bufong. He was the human who had chatted with the Serpentine sovereign in the Imperial Palace. What did this fellow want to do? The deep pit was sealed by the oceanic species and the demons. Did you want to go in? Some experts of the Serpent Men tribe smiled, waiting for the scene of Bufong being chased away. Yufu's face changed. She hurried to warn Bufong. In the distance, the experts of the oceanic species and the demon scorpion race guarding the deep pit saw Bufong. They roared, wanting to chase him away. Bufong clasped one hand, raising his black and white bandaged arm. As a wave of green smoke twirled, a huge black wok suddenly appeared in his hand. Taking a step, he dashed like a meteor toward the deep pit. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.